Warning: the video you're about to see contains mentions of the following. Just a quick disclaimer, if you're a stay and you're coming into my comment section to tell me that I should separate him from Stray Kids and I shouldn't mention Stray Kids, I would not know anything about Stray Kids if it wasn't for stays going into every single one of his platforms to harass him.
안녕하세요, 김우진입니다.
That's Kim Woo-jin, and I am not a K-pop stan. I'm just a person who enjoys music. Recently, I came across this music video of him singing, and I was interested. So I started to do a little bit of digging into who he is so I can find more music, and honestly, what I found was disturbing. For this video, I had to do a lot of research. I kept being told things about Kim Woo-jin that just weren't adding up. The more I spoke to Stray Kids fans, the less made sense. So let's talk about it. Most of us have heard about K-pop as it becomes more global, and if you haven't, I guarantee you've at least heard one K-pop song.
Gangnam Style.
I'm super shy, never let it go.
I got it back. 반에 뒤집어 this game.
Most young hopefuls join the K-pop industry at a really young age, trying to become a trainee at one of the top 4 companies, those being SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, JYP Entertainment, and HYBE. When Woo-jin was in middle school, his parents couldn't afford to get him guitar lessons, so he got a job at a chicken shop in order to pay for them. He was then accepted into Fantagio and then later SM to become a trainee. Despite being a good vocalist, he was cut from the trainee program at SM because he needed to work on his dance skills. From there, he was recruited to JYP Entertainment and joined the trainee showcase in February of 2017. They were looking to debut a new boy group, and viewers were introduced to the original 9-member lineup. 3 of them would be switched out before they debuted. It's said that the group came together on their own, but later was revealed that the leader Bang Chan was responsible for choosing the members of the group, each chosen with their own unique abilities in mind. In age order, the final 9 were IN, Sungmin, Felix, Han, Hyunjin, Changbin, Lino, the leader Chan, and Kim Woo-jin. Together they would adopt the slogan 9 or None, and 2 of the original members, Yaochan and Alan, would join other groups. 5 months before this survival show began, JYP Entertainment had put in a request to trademark the name Stray Kids. The company also made sure to secure Instagram pages under the same name, making sure they could use it in future for their boy group that they planned to debut. We know that account didn't change names because whenever that happens, it says former username on the Instagram page. Between August and October, Stray Kids had a very long journey ahead of them. JYP Entertainment was trying to decide between them and a girl group ITZY for which one would debut first.
안녕하세요. 저는 올해로 20살 된 김우진이라고 합니다. SM에 1년 정도 있다가 JYP에 들어오게 됐습니다. 연습했던 연습생 형 친구들 중 거의 대부분이 NCT 그룹으로 데뷔를 했어요. 그때는 부럽고 서운한 마음이 있었지만 포기하지 않게 되는 원동력이 된 것 같아요. 꼭 열심히 해서 데뷔주에 서고 싶어요.
In August 2017, JYP Entertainment then pitted Stray Kids against their girl group ITZY to see which one would be ready to debut.
이 두 팀 중에 한 팀을 데뷔조로 선택해야 되는 아주 중요한 쇼케이스입니다.
Both ITZY and Stray Kids were groups under JYP's training program. It's clear that JYP had been looking to debut a boy group for a while because they had been talking about it since February of 2017. Putting Stray Kids under the label District 9, this would become important later. While Stray Kids observe ITZY perform, I do want to take this moment to explain that I did speak to both Stray Kids fans and Kim Woo-jin fans to get their perspective on what happened. I'm only going to post here what I can prove. Okay, back to the video. During this showcase, both groups got to observe each other, pointing out strengths and weaknesses of each performer in each group. Taeyang from ITZY and Changbin from Stray Kids both got praise from JYP for their performance.
그리고 오늘 남자 팀 중에 내가 제일 인상 깊게 봤던 건 사실 창빈이야. 여자 이 팀에 2명이 더 눈에 띄었어. 첫 번째는 당연히 채영이고.
Stray Kids won the challenge and officially became the next group to be chosen to debut at JYP Entertainment. October 6, 2017, they put out their first official pre-debut music video and single. This was to give the public a taste of their unique sound. Elevator was a success. It moved up the charts quickly and got people excited for what was to come next. JYP Entertainment needed to promote their new boy group. They created a 10-part survival show in order to showcase each member and their talents to the world. The show was a genius promotional move from JYP because it gave the public a chance to get to know the boys as individuals and made them feel as if they were going on this journey with them. Though Woojin hadn't been a trainee for long, he brought his experience as a vocalist, becoming Stray Kids' main vocal.
연습했던 것보다 우진이 형이 되게 애드립 부분에서 되게 잘 터뜨려 주셔서 들으면서도 놀랐던 것 같아요. 형은 역시 무대를 씹어먹는 카리스마를 가진 무대 체질인 건가.
Viewers watched them go through many hardships, including the elimination of 2 of their members.
너 떨어졌어. 알지?
Both members were brought back before the final episode, and the group finally had the chance to prove that they could work together as 9 towards debut. Ultimately, the final decision was up to the fans, and they voted for all 9.
네, 이렇게 해서 스트레이키즈 최종 멤버는 전원 데뷔 9명으로 결정됐습니다. 축하합니다. 자, 데뷔부터 새로운 역사를 쓴 스트레이키즈 멤버 여러분, 다시 한번 축하합니다.
January 8, 2018, Stray Kids put out their pre-release EP consisting of all the songs they composed during the show. The EP did so well that it debuted at number 2 on the Billboard World Albums chart. The survival show was a huge promotional success, and Stray Kids eventually debuted on March 25, 2018, with their explosive hit, District 9 on the EP I Am Not. JYP Entertainment had finally debuted their new boy group that had been a long time in the making. Stray Kids were the most highly anticipated debut of 2018, and they broke multiple records. Not only did they become the most awarded rookie group in the history of K-pop at the time, they also broke a long-standing record for the most music video views for a rookie group. Stray Kids were on fire, snagging endorsement deals left and right. They were named the Monster Rookies and were being compared to major groups like BTS, GOT7, and EXO. For the next year, their company would send them all around the world to promote Russia, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, the United States, and many more countries. Being in the public eye does not come without its scrutiny. In April 2019, pictures of the leader of the group, Christopher Bangchan, wearing corners at a fan meet surfaced. Bangchan was being accused of cultural appropriation, and this led to a breakdown between fans. This would also be the first time of many a hashtag would surface calling for Woojin to be the leader of Stray Kids. Now, this is important to note. I've taken out the usernames, but these were not Stray Kids fans calling for Woojin to be the leader. I checked through their social media history. They were not ever fans of the group, they just did not like Christopher. Bangchan then took to social media to remind his fans about their slogan Stray Kids everywhere all around the world, and that he did not mean to offend anyone. Despite the apology, this still divided Stray Kids fans, some not accepting the apologies and thinking it was inadequate. In the end, K-pop stans eventually moved on, and Stray Kids survived the controversy and went on to be promoted by Spotify, Twitter, Billboard, performing at major award shows and being called the next big thing from JYP.
스트레이키즈입니다.
스트레이키즈입니다.
축하드립니다. 스트레이키즈.
At the time, the 9-member rookie group was on a historical rise. They never had to experience the hardships of starting from the bottom. With their pre-debut album, they had been breaking records as trainees and continued to break records throughout their debut and rookie years. Their music continued to be a success, and so did the shows showcasing the group. Stray Kids company JYP Entertainment designed several programs around their activities, programs like Finding SKZ, SKZ Talker, 2 Kids Room, and many more. It was during these Talker episodes that Kim Woojin's fans realized that he had been singled out for a very restrictive meal plan. Often he was seen eating boiled corn or nothing at all, while the others were eating normal, nutritious meals. Woojin had been placed on a strict diet. This worried his fans because Stray Kids had a rigorous schedule, which included exercise, performances, dance practice, travel, press tours, and music recording. Outside of music, a lot of idols' activities are centered around games. They compete for food or to avoid chores, and losing sometimes results in a physical punishment, one of them being a sharp flick to the forehead. Ujin had a particularly deadly finger when it came to this punishment, and so he was often the one to dole it out. Despite the fact that this was an agreed-upon punishment by the group, this still drew some anger from ACTGs and solo fans of the other members. In K-pop, talent is often determined by your looks. You will consistently hear fans say things like, "Why do you even stan him or her? They're ugly." Instead of saying, "I don't think that person is talented," they will say, "That person is ugly, therefore they are untalented." Despite the fact that Ujin was being cyberbullied heavily by solo fans of other members as well as people who were not fans of the group at all, Stray Kids continue to move forward. Stray Kids in particular were on a quest for world domination, which means they had an extremely packed schedule. They would release 2 extended play, self-composed, self-produced albums per year, and in between their busy schedule they would be filming for Korean broadcasting shows. For those who appreciated Ujin, he was celebrated for his voice as a songwriter and composer and was given the nickname Ujin God.
너의 뒤에 서 있을게. I am love. 하늘 아래 너와 있다면.
While looking back on footage of Stray Kids' early days, one thing became clear to me. Despite being the youngest in his family, Kim Ujin, as the eldest in the Hyungline, was quickly developing a special bond with each member. The bond was so close that they started to refer to him as the dad of the group.
그런 표정이 있더라고. 내가 이 형이 이제 내 옆에 있었으면 이 형을 믿을 수 있다. 그런 약간 잘 지켜준 형이 표정.
좋아.
아 근데 표현하는 게 좀 힘들어요.
잘 말했어.
딱 한 단어로 이제 표현을 할 수 없을 정도인데.
영어로 하면?
되게 big brother.
아, big brother?
big brother.
큰 형?
큰 형. 큰 형처럼 뭐야.
좋네.
그때가 제일 고마웠다. 뭐지? 저희 그거 갔을 때 번지점프 갔을 때 번지점프 갔을 때 저 내려와서 진짜 엄청 울었잖아요. 근데 저쪽에서 다른 무리들은 나를 놀리고 있는데 형만 나를 되게 진정시켜줬어요. 물론 릭스도 옆에서 야 괜찮아 이러면서 했는데 형이 되게 딱 안기는데 진짜 우리 아빠한테 안기는 것 같았어. 진짜 그때 지금보다 더 말라가지고 진짜 이렇게 돼가지고 한 번에 쏙 안겼는데 되게 안정됐어요 그때.
아,
그때는 진짜 고마웠어요.
근데 그때 너가 서럽게 우는 거야. 너무 서럽게 우는 거야. 그래서 너무 안아주고 싶었어, 그냥 너무 달래주고 싶었고. 내가 또 그런 거 보면은 그래서.
저는 그때 진짜 울 때 되게 마음이 약해지거든요. 엄청 약해져요. 그래가지고 뭘 해주면 진짜 엄청 감동을 받는데 그냥 뭘 해준 게 아니고 되게 따뜻했어요. 되게 you know? 약간 정.
Stray Kids were determined to stay the next big thing in K-pop. When they found a moment of free time, they would film street versions of their songs without music videos. Being a K-pop idol is an all-consuming job. Not only are you making music, but you also have to cater your personality to your fans, because you will have fan meets, you will have to do content for them, you will have to make sure that they like you as a person and not just as a musician. And within groups, there are members who are targeted far more viciously than anyone else. You are an idol at all times and you represent your brand. Because of this, a lot of idols develop terrible anxiety and can often lose confidence. In the industry, idols who are experiencing these symptoms often go on hiatus or leave their groups altogether. In fact, in 2019, a lot of idols were experiencing burnout. And from what his fans could tell, Woojin was starting to show signs of the same. His confidence seemed to be disappearing. For their October 23rd SKZ Talker episode, Kim Woojin only appeared for this very short clip, and unusually, the dance leader Lino did not do a live broadcast for his birthday. Fans were worried about the silence, and on October 27, 2018, JYP Entertainment then released a statement advising that Woojin had left the group due to personal circumstances and Stray Kids would continue moving forward as an 8-member unit. Even though fans knew something was wrong, they never imagined that they'd get a letter saying that a member had left the group. That evening, the leader Bang Chan took to social media to speak to fans and apologize for the sudden news. He also assured fans that Stray Kids would continue their journey as 8. This confused fans because he posted it in Fanship, a space that connects fans with idols but not on official channels. Everyone was talking about Woojin leaving Stray Kids, which brought a lot of fresh eyes to the group, which gained them a lot of new followers. The hashtag #ThankYouWoojin was trending for multiple days in a row. A week later, Woojin also took to a fan space to apologize to fans about the sudden departure. He tried to explain himself and how he was feeling. Woojin stated that he needed time to adjust and heal, and explained that he'd been debating this for a while. 2 weeks later, Woojin was spotted in China, where he had traveled to support a friend, Yao Chen, from the group Rise. During this time, Woojin was not on social media and living as a regular civilian. On Stray Kids' side of things, during their time in London, they had taken photos for a photo book to be released soon. This was pushed back to give the company time to edit him out of it. Their music video for Astronaut was also edited to exclude Woojin from it. Fans, however, noted that clips of him still remained. The group then went on to film their music video for Clay Levanter, which was the new release coming out for their album, which had now been pushed back 2 weeks from its original release date, giving the group over a month to re-record his lines for their tour and the album. They spent the next month promoting Levanter, achieving their second Korea music show win since Miro in April of 2019. During this time, Woojin was radio silent and was nowhere to be found on social media. It would remain this way for 3 months as he was truly taking the time to heal, as well as letting Stray Kids have their comeback without any distractions. January 16, 2020, Stray Kids had completed their Levanter promotions, and Woojin quietly opened an Instagram account. He soon followed it up with a Twitter account, where he began posting selfies and had a lot of support. People were excited to see him back. For 3 months, Woojin didn't say anything, he just posted photos. March 25, 2020, 5 months after Woojin had left, Stray Kids were promoting their SKZ 2020 repackaged album. This was their first Japanese release, but it also included songs that had been re-recorded with the 8-member unit. The album released March 18, 2020, and was met with some pushback by Stray Kids fans who didn't want to support it, as they didn't want versions of the songs without Woojin's voice. On the 25th of March, during one of his weekly live sessions with his fans, Stray Kids leader Christopher Bang Chan said the following.
예, SKZ 2020 앨범이 확실히 저희한테는 너무나 의미가 중요한. Like I feel like it's a really important album for us. Last year there was a lot of things that happened last year, but you know, I think it's for the best of for everyone. And yeah, like if I quickly just say something, it's you know. How do I say this? It's okay to make mistakes, like it really is, but like just make sure to be careful, because it can really, you know, affect yourself and people around you. Like I know a person who had you know, who had to face the worst consequence by making a lot of mistakes, and it was because of those mistakes that really, you know, affected the people around him. You know, if you make a promise with you know, with the team or, you know, the people around you, you need to be responsible and really keep those promises, not break them. And so, you know, while it's okay to make mistakes, like, you know, everyone makes mistakes, so it's really fine. But just remember to think of, you know, the people around you, and think, you know, very carefully about your future and, you know, what you want to do, like your dreams and everything, because, you know, the actions and decisions that you make could become a really, like, it could become a very big turning point in your life. And so don't be that person, you know, who just thinks about himself and, you know, think about the people, and make sure to think about the people around you too, because, you know, if you don't, it's kind of like, you know, betrayal. Then 그런 느낌이니까, and yeah, it means that you're being really, really selfish. So Yeah, we can't go into too much detail, but yeah, I know stays know what I mean. So it's fine to make mistakes. Just always, I don't know. I feel like for me, it's top priority to think about the people around you, and of course, I'm important as well. But it's because it's like a really big industry where you have to work with a lot of people. It's always good to think about the people around you. So yeah, stays know what I'm talking about. Stays know what I mean.
After months, Woojin had finally healed from whatever it was that made him depart from Stray Kids. However, now he found himself in the middle of a controversy. Now more than ever, Stray Kids fans were convinced that Woojin did not leave on his own but was kicked out of the group. Based off the words of the leader, Stray Kids fans took it upon themselves to find out what it was that they were convinced that Woojin had done to be kicked out of the group. Most likely due to the signing of an NDA, Woojin had no recourse to tell his side of the story. And so, armed with Bang Chan's cryptic message, Stray Kids fans started to call him selfish and a traitor. Woojin's fans were quick to point out that one person's selfish act may be somebody else's freedom. While Woojin was now facing a lot of criticism from Stray Kids fans, Bang Chan also found himself facing a lot of criticism for not being specific. At the time that this happened, Woojin had been living as a civilian for the past 5 months. He was not an idol, not a celebrity, and he did not have a company and a company platform to back him. Bang Chan's fans, however, felt that regardless of the timing, he had a right to say what he wanted about Kim Woojin. It's unclear whether Woojin was just determined to focus on his supporters, or due to the possible consequences of an NDA, Woojin completely ignored the accusations coming from Stray Kids fans. And on April 8, 2020, he would go live for only the second time since leaving the group to celebrate his birthday and to thank his fans for their support as he had reached 1 million followers on Instagram.
왜 이렇게 라이브를 하는데 긴장이 될까? 그리고 여러분들 최근에 또 생일 전날에 그것도 있었잖아요. 제가 인스타에 올렸지만 그 인스타 팔로워가 100만이 돼가지고 이렇게 또 많은 분들이 또 축하를 해주셨어요. 정말 감사합니다. 사실 100만 팔로워를 찍을 줄은 몰랐는데 그래도 아직 많은 분들이 저를 응원해 주시고 있구나라는 걸 다시 한번 느끼게 된 기회가 아니었나 생각을 했어요. 너무너무 감사드려요. 그냥 그리고 팔로워는 조금 팔로워도 팔로워지만 별개로 저를 지금 많이 응원해 주시는 분들 모두 감사드립니다.
Something that would become an unexpected issue for Woojin later was him participating in a Korean trend, posting places where he would like to go on vacation, photoshopping himself in it. Due to the pandemic, Woojin would have only been able to travel within Korea. He certainly wouldn't have been going to Chile, and he's certainly not 4 meters tall to be that close to the head and almost the same height. While Woojin was living as a civilian and reorganizing his life, he traveled within Korea with his friends. Stray Kids fans were meticulously keeping track of him, monitoring every interview he would give, so they could find reasons to criticize him. They were upset that while Stray Kids were recording the few minutes of lines he had across their discography, he had, somewhere within the 5 months he had been gone from the group, traveled with friends, and apparently that is insensitive. A few days later, Woojin announced that he'd be hosting a fan meet in 1 month's time. During this fan meet, he apologized once again directly to fans for the sudden announcement of his departure from the group and attempted to explain himself and how he was feeling and where he's been all this time.
근데 요즘에 약간 수전 중이나 손이 좀 떨려가지고 나의 팬분들에게 안녕하세요, 우진입니다. 먼저 긴 시간 저를 기다려주시고 응원해주신
제 팬분들에게 고맙다는 말을 해드리고 싶습니다. 여러 가지로 부족한 저를 아낌없이 사랑해주는 여러분들의 모습을 보면서 정말 난 축복받은 사람이구나 라고 생각을 했습니다. 작년에 갑작스런 저의 소식을 듣고 많이 혼란스럽고 힘드셨을 팬들에게 정말 미안하고 또 너무 고맙습니다. 10월에 회사를 나오고 사실 조금 방황을 했었어요. 그 힘든 시간에 제 마음이 내가 가수라는 직업을 계속 할 수 있을까? 라는 부정적인 생각을 갖게 되었어요. 하지만 그렇게 힘든 시간을 보낼 때 제가 팬분들의 진심 어린 응원들을 보고 정말 힘을 많이 얻었어요. 그 중에서 가장 와닿았던 말은 말이 하나 있는데 이 자리에서 약속을 하나 하고 싶습니다. 오늘 이 공연 뉴 에어리어를 시작으로 앞으로 좋은 음악, 더 멋지게 꿈을 향해 달려가는 김우진의 모습 보여드릴 테니까 꼭 함께 걸어갔으면 좋겠습니다. 오늘 와주신 팬분들 그리고 영상으로 보고 계신 팬분들 모두 감사드립니다. 이 약속을 지킬 수 있도록 제가 더 노력하겠습니다. 지금까지 김우진이었습니다. 2020년 5월 16일 오늘 누구보다 행복한 우진이가 또 앞으로 자주 봐요. 감사합니다.
He donated most of the proceeds of this fan meet to children in need. He also described what it was that made him come back to music. One thing was clear, whatever made him leave had profoundly affected him. On the other side of things, Stray Kids were plagued with controversy. Footage was released of them dancing to an offensive song while at a program. Hyunjin, one of the rappers, had messages from a private app leaked. During a segment of Finding SKZ, Hyunjin wore an unfortunate costume. Bangchan, after using lyrics from an A$AP Rocky song in one of their songs, Pace, had to come forward and apologize. At every turn, their fans were having to put out fires and explain the controversies surrounding the group. Though Stray Kids were going through so many controversies, Stray Kids fans launched another concentrated attack against Kim Woojin after the leader Bangchan released a song called I Hate to Admit. The abuse got so bad that Bangchan had to come forward and clarify that the song was not about Woojin.
A lot of people think that the lyrics are about a certain person, but it actually isn't. So don't want you guys to go hating on that person. So don't hate on him. 그런 게 아니니까 어떻게 해석하냐에 달라요.
맞아요.
It depends on how you interpret it. So
약간 열린 결말 느낌.
맞아요. 그 사람이 뭐 친구일 수도 있고, 아니면 뭐 사랑하는 사람일 수도 있고, 아니면 어떻게 보면 또 가족일 수도 있고, 약간 그런
대상을 정해놓지 않았어요.
맞아요. 대상이 정해져 않아서 어떻게 보면 또 꿈이라는 사람, 꿈이라는 너라는 그런 것도 있어서 어떻게 it depends how you want to decipher it. But yeah.
박꿈씨.
꿈이라는
사니까 박꿈.
네. 그런 거니까 I hope that clears things up, because don't want you guys to spread negative energy around. Okay. Stacey, you guys are better than that. Okay.
They in fact were not. Despite the fact that Woojin had been out of the group for 8 months, Stray Kids fans still pursued him relentlessly. They continuously accused him of trying to sabotage the group, as if somehow he was the reason that Stray Kids were facing so many controversies. Woojin, on the other hand, was still receiving praise from fans of Stray Kids who still supported him, as well as the greater K-pop community, and was quickly building his own fan base. June 17, 2020, Stray Kids released their first studio album, Go Live, with the title track God's Menu. Years later, it would receive chart success, but at the time of release it did not chart. And because they were up against some strong competition during that comeback, it also received 0 music show wins. Some of their fans had left due to the cultural appropriation issue, and some were leaving because they believed the Stray Kids fandom was becoming too toxic. Outside of Stray Kids fan base, the general K-pop community were growing increasingly unhappy with the group. To make matters worse, when Bang Chan came forward to apologize, they lost over 200,000 followers on Instagram. In addition, Hyunjin's Ask FM, which had originally been leaked in April of 2018, resurfaced one day before the album was to be released. Even though their album sales were doing well, they were losing support for streaming and votes, which was important because in 2 months' time, they had another album coming out. And unknown to all, some stays were plotting to use Woojin to fix this issue. They planned to use him to fix the group's image and to redirect the hate Stray Kids were getting onto him. September 7, 2020, an account posted Woo, Big 3. The account then went on to explain in English and Korean that they had gone to a bar with a friend where they had met a famous idol. This idol had no longer been a part of the group, but continued to use the group name to impress women. They then went on to describe a harrowing experience where this former idol groped them and attempted to get them to touch him. The account went on to say that everybody thinks that this idol is a really good person, but in fact he's a really bad person, and his group, the former group, are really good people. They also implied that they had been silenced before. The account had a small following, and so the accusation did not garner enough attention at first. However, a larger account by the name of Rafa came forward with their 8,000 followers to amplify the tweet. Another account by the name of Milena stepped forward to advise that she was a witness and she had seen the entire thing happen. She also wanted to clarify because people were spreading the story and calling Woojin this was sexual harassment. Multiple other accounts started to come forward, also speaking in partial Korean and English, some speaking in partial Chinese and English, but all of them had the same story. They were at a bar, he bought them soju, got them drunk, knew they were Stray Kids fans, tried to turn them against the group, was arrogant and angry and proceeded to try to get them to touch him. He was often with a friend, and proceeded to sexually harass these women and men. One of the accounts even stated that he had drugged her during one of these interactions. One of the accusers provided a photo of whiskey bottles with a gray shirt in the background, stating that the picture of Kim Woojin's from his Instagram was from the same day. Altogether, almost 20 different accounts came forward in the span of 2 days, all accusing Kim Woojin. Editing in post, I had originally named 2 idols who had been named in the accusations against Woojin. In light of recent allegations against a now former NCT member, I have removed their names. The current idol under investigation is not one of the members that was named. The idols that were named were simply collateral in this sick revenge against Woojin. A different account came forward describing a conversation they had with Woojin in great detail, where he spent time talking about how little he thought of the 2 vocalists. Then an account claiming to be a Korean person living in China also came forward stating that Woojin is an extreme misogynist and implied that he had been with one of the members of Big Bang who was involved in another scandal. An account on Facebook posted that there was footage of him at hunting bars searching for victims. This was bad. Woojin was quickly losing support. One alleged victim came forward and stated that Jimin of BTS was also involved, that they were at a club together and Woojin tried to violate Jimin and he was too drunk, so he moved on to this person. Woojin took to his only available platforms to make a statement. This is how it was translated by Instagram. Soon after, an account was created claiming to be an English-speaking member of the JYP Entertainment staff. They came forward with a detailed account of how Woojin was always showing up late for practice and was violent to the members of Stray Kids. K-pop stans were outraged, and none more than Stray Kids fans who started to go back into old footage to prove that Woojin really could have done these things. They pulled old footage from their pre-debut days to claim that he had been palming himself while watching a teenage Chaeryeong. Multiple clips were pulled of Woojin interacting with Stray Kids members, claiming that this was proof of bullying. Clips that had previously been seen as normal were looked at now with a completely different lens. Soon, Stray Kids fans were also pulling footage from a palm reader who claimed that Kim Woojin would have problems of a sexual nature. This was the evidence they needed to prove that Kim Woojin had been a predator flying under the radar all this time. There's only one problem. None of this really happened. I mean, yes, he was accused of many things, but none of it is true. I am very aware that I'm an annoying person. I'm the worst type of person to tell a story to, or at least to sell something to, because I'm going to ask questions. I'm not a skeptic by nature, but when it comes to a story, I need far too many details. I need to know who, where, what, when, what are the outcomes. And because Stray Kids fans weren't able to tell me the answers to these questions, I started digging, and the more I dug, the less made sense. I've also never been a follower, and I'm not motivated by hate, which is why this raised so many red flags for me. Let's go back to September 8, 2020, Korea time. So the question remains, how do we go from some fans saying that Woojin is so perfect that he is like a god, having one of his most loyal fans detail the abuse that he and his fans were facing from Stray Kids fans, to that same fan then turning around and calling him a loser and a bitch and getting almost 10k likes because due to threats, pricing, and disorganization from the vendor, the tour was cancelled? A disjointed but thorough smear campaign. During the months that Woojin was taking time to heal and sort out his life, some Stray Kids fans were becoming increasingly resentful towards him, none more so than fans of Christopher Bang Chan. Now, this is not to say that Bang Chan was responsible for his fans' behavior, because they are responsible for their own actions. Their smear campaign was created as revenge toward Woojin for what they see as betrayal because he left the group, and they feel entitled to his reasons why. I'm going to show you how and why they did it. 2019 was a particularly rough time for K-pop idols. Here's a list of some of the close to 40 idols who left their companies, and many went on hiatus. Now, going back to the departure statement from JYP, many pointed out that this is a generic statement that JYP had put out for many idols when they left, or in some cases got kicked out. They also believed that they somehow are privy to secret knowledge about JYP contracts and decided that the company had to be lying to them about why Woojin left. They were quickly coming up with this accusation that he had done something so detrimental to Stray Kids' future that they had to kick him out. The only problem with this is JYP Entertainment have blacklisted idols that they perceived as having done something harmful to their reputation. Additionally, it would make no sense for the company to request support for Woojin in his future endeavors had he done something so terrible that, if revealed, it would come back to harm them. August 2020, Park Jin-young, the owner and founder of JYP, did an interview with Forbes where he spoke about some of the departures from his company. At the time, the only idol departure from JYP Entertainment that was being questioned was Kim Woojin's. During that interview, Park Jin-young, who I'll refer to you as JYP moving forward and the company is JYP Entertainment, stated that they do not reveal the reasons for departures from the company in order to make sure, if it is controversial, that idols have a good chance to continue their future. Something that must be pointed out is he did not state that they do not say whether someone was kicked out or not. They said they do not reveal the reason. K-pop stans continue to push the narrative that JYP Entertainment will not reveal if someone was kicked out or not. However, they have revealed if someone was kicked out. They, however, don't reveal the specific reasons. For example, just 4 months before Woojin's departure from JYP Entertainment, a Produce 101 trainee was kicked out of the program. He was kicked out by JYP Entertainment for his past, a past which included a bullying scandal. JYP did not reveal that this was the reason they were kicking him out, but they very clearly stated that he had broken the rules. And according to Killian, another JYP trainee, he was kicked out for being gay, which then prevented him from ever being able to become an idol at all. So according to Stray Kids fans, JYP would do all this to people who had done something non-criminal. But for Woojin, who according to Stray Kids fans is some secret supervillain, JYP Entertainment would not blacklist him, not reveal that he was kicked out, and in fact ask people to support him moving forward. Back to JYP's statement. However, he did state that not every idol who has left the company has left under controversial circumstances. Some had left for other or personal reasons, which was the reason they gave for Woojin's departure, the only departure that was being questioned at the time. In order to fully understand what happened here, you need to know that there were 3 main parties involved. A group of Brazilian Stray Kids fans known as Sun 7, a group of international Stray Kids fans from the United States, Vietnam, India, Malaysia, and the greater K-pop community. Rafaela, who I will refer to as Rafa moving forward, was one of the Stray Kids fans questioning Woojin's departure right from the beginning. She believes that she is somehow close to the idols she supports, that she somehow has an intimate relationship with them. The reason this is concerning is because K-pop stans like Rafaela believe these K-pop idols serve as their surrogate boyfriends or girlfriends, therefore thinking they have ownership over them. This has the unfortunate consequence of some fans not being able to separate fantasy from reality. For the next few weeks, Rafa and her friends, deciding not to respect Woojin's privacy, tried to figure out why he had left the group. She made several posts about being heartbroken about him leaving, saying that she would respect whatever statement he gave. She would not. She would continue to follow all fan updates about him, including his visit to China, which will become very important later. She also expressed excitement about his fresh start. She would continue to talk about him up until March 24, 2020, This would be the last time she would mention him for the next several months. Back to the American and European side of Stray Kids fanbase, some admitted that Woojin was treated differently. For the most part, however, meme culture dominated the theories around Woojin's departure. A member of the boy group The Boys, who had debuted just prior to Stray Kids, had left a few days before Kim Woojin. Memes started to circulate about them running away together because Woojin got him pregnant. This evolved into an accusation that Woojin had gotten a woman pregnant, therefore breaking the company dating ban and getting kicked out. The memes persisted until they started to turn serious. In September of 2019, a fan site belonging to two of the Stray Kids members, Lee Minho and Han Ji-sung, had closed. In February of 2020, Stray Kids fans then accused Woojin of having gotten the fan site pregnant, leading to the fan site's closure. The gender of this fan site is, as of today, still unknown. What began as a playful joke blaming Woojin for the fan site closing quickly devolved into an actual accusation which spread worldwide. At that time, one of Woojin's fan sites also closed, and people speculated a pregnancy out of thin air on his behalf. However, his wasn't the only one to close. Fan sites get paid by displaying ads from advertisers which generate revenue based on the number of clicks or impressions the ads receive. Some also sell these photos or ask for donations from people visiting their site. They pay out of pocket to follow these idols around to make sure they get those photos. If an idol is inactive or not as active, the chances of them getting photos to sell or to put advertisements on is low. And as you can see, fan sites can close whenever an idol is inactive for a long period of time. Woojin had no plans yet to announce a solo career, which meant his fan sites were facing an uncertain future. There was the added issue of the COVID-19 pandemic in Korea. January 20th saw the first recorded case. So it's only natural that during a pandemic where travel is restricted and Woojin was completely inactive, fan sites would begin to close. They would be making absolutely no revenue if he's not going to events. Despite Woojin being inactive as an idol, this did not stop Stray Kids fans from stalking Woojin's fanbase. Even though Bang Chan had requested that his fans not hate on Woojin and that they are better than that, they ignored his request. In order to implicate Woojin, these Stray Kids fans used 4 notable events. The Burning Sun scandal, which was a horrible case of sexual assault and drugging at a nightclub. The Itaewon Idol scandal, Stray Kids' drop in sales for the Yellowwood album, and Bang Chan's V-Live, where he said one of his friends had faced the worst consequences. The Burning Sun, a nightclub at Le Méridien Seoul Hotel in Gangnam-gu in Seoul, South Korea, was the site of a horrible case of trafficking, drugging, and sexual assault, which involved several senior idols. The Itaewon Idol scandal was less of a scandal and more of an expose, where idols were caught downtown Itaewon at nightclubs when they were supposed to be observing COVID protocols. Several idols were implicated and apologized. I want to be very clear that during the Idol Itaewon expose, none of these idols were at any sketchy clubs. They were simply out grabbing a meal or meeting friends. Because Stray Kids had been facing a lot of backlash for several different instances of cultural appropriation during this time, these Stray Kids fans were looking for any way to implicate Woojin into some kind of scandal because they wanted to find a way to destroy his support system. They would use Chan's V-Live as their evidence of Woojin doing wrong. With idols being caught at nightclubs, these Stray Kids fans took the opportunity to try and accuse him of going to hunting bars, illegal establishments that are created for people who are seeking arrangements. At no point did they provide the names of these bars or the dates when he had supposedly been spotted. They claimed to have evidence that he had been frequenting these bars, and this is why he was no longer in the group, that he had been kicked out, with others accusing him of using the group to debut and planning his exit as early as 2018. They spent a lot of time trying to find ways to invalidate Woojin's words about needing to heal and the circumstances surrounding his departure. I want you to take a second to digest the hypocrisy of these 2 tweets. These particular Stray Kids fans were obsessed with Woojin and his fans. They even created group chats within which they insulted him. They bonded with each other, trying to come up with different ways to abuse Kim Woojin and his fans, and continued to stalk them in every platform so they could find ways to get noticed by them. They were desperate for negative interactions and would find ways to escalate to achieve them. When the rumors they were trying to plant weren't gaining any traction, they would take them to Facebook and then bring them back to Twitter, hoping that they would gain some credibility. When they were called out and made fun of for lying, they would just pivot back to 2019 in order to then make him responsible for company decisions. Woojin had been out of the group for 8 months, and yet they were still incredibly obsessed. Then and now, Kim Woojin's fans kept meticulous notes detailing the inhumane verbal assault that these Stray Kids fans were hurling at him. These weren't just a few Stray Kids fans, these were hundreds and thousands of them. hyper-fixated on Woojin, angry and obsessed. Don't use the word narcissism lightly, but this was pure narcissistic abuse. Like a cancer, they would spread their hatred and grow because it was their goal to abuse him to the point of depression so that he would self-exit. They feel that entitled to him. Before we dive into the accusations that Stray Kids fans finally got to stick, it's important to remember that during this time, Woojin was living as a regular civilian and had no company to his name. He is also just a singular person who was viciously and cruelly being targeted for intense cyberbullying. In all, there were more than 20 accusations thrown at Woojin. Some were completely ridiculous and others needed a little more investigating to disprove. Now, working backwards, a few months after all the accusations had come out, a few of them came forward to fully admit that they were just jumping on a hate train or that they were part of a planned group to attack Woojin. Others admitted they lied, trying to pretend that they were now teaching people a moral lesson about false accusations. This one in particular, who was one of his accusers, came back to mock everybody who had believed them. For the ones who didn't admit they were lying, 2 days after the first accusation surfaced, a supposed JYP Entertainment staff member came forward to say that Woojin had been bullying his members, explicitly detailing scenarios for each member. They also advised that Woojin had been sexually inappropriate with said members and had been absent to group activities. All this occurred around Yellowwood era. Yellowwood came out June 19, 2019. This was 4 months before Woojin would make his departure from the group. At this time, Stray Kids had a dip in sales while they had been on a steady rise for some time. In an effort to imply that the reason that the sales were low is because Woojin was somehow holding the group back, this Stray Kids fan posing as a JYP Entertainment staff member sought to accuse Woojin of being a bully who was sexually inappropriate with the group. Strictly going by what they wrote, there's a few issues here. Employees at K-pop companies have to sign extremely strict NDAs. Not only would they be getting themselves into extreme trouble, but also their friend who's allegedly on staff. Something that I personally question is if there was a JYP Entertainment staff member, apparently several according to this anonymous user on Twitter, who had information about Woojin, why would they not use an official channel where they're allowed to be anonymous but prove that they are a JYP staff member, like Blind? Blind is an app that was established in 2013 that allows staff members of companies to anonymously give information about the company. It's the #1 employee app in Korea for reporting while legitimizing your credentials as a member of staff at these companies. Secondly, Park Jin-young is not the CEO of JYP Entertainment. Most importantly, Stray Kids have hours of video footage of them interacting, which directly contradict this supposed staff member. In fact, Stray Kids frequently talked about the members' habits.
Who is always late? The count of 3 will point, right? 1, 2, 3. What's the reason?
This was uploaded June 10th, 9 days before Yellowwood. If Woojin had been the one coming home late, would they not have pointed at him?
I don't know.
준비성이 철저해서 그래요.
Okay. Everyone knows. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Jammer! That's you? No. I'm so slow. Yeah.
This was uploaded 3 days after Yellowwood, but as you can see by the clothing, it was recorded on the same day. Same result. It's important to note that I am in no way trying to say that Changbin was the one going out all night. None of them were going out to bars. It is virtually impossible considering they all live on the grounds of JYP Entertainment and would need permission to leave. Furthermore, Stray Kids were notoriously touchy with Woojin. They were constantly cuddling him, constantly trying to kiss him, and constantly saying how safe he made them feel. These Stray Kids fans set out to destroy his legacy and reputation because they did not want to see him thriving without them. The goal was revenge.
우리 나머지 8명이 흔들리고 막 이래도 뭔가 형은 안 흔들릴 것 같아. 거기에 그러니까 그 자리에 버티고 있을 것 같은 사람. 그럼 뭐라고 말하지? 멋있게 뭐 표현할 한마디가 없나? 뭐가 있을까? 내진 설계? 아닌데. 캡틴 아메리카.
그래.
왜냐면 캡틴 아메리카가 적을 물리치고 막 이런 느낌이 별로 없어. 근데 그 가운데서 막 작전을 막 지시하고 항상 그 버팀목이 되는 느낌?
중심이 되는 느낌?
형은 캡틴 아메리카야.
They sought to destroy him for walking away as their ultimate payback. Of the hundreds of K-pop idols who had left their K-pop groups, he would be the first ever to be called a traitor for it. As for the bullying allegations, I want you to pay attention to this clip.
때리는 줄 알았어. 거의 자상함.
I'm so sweet, bro.
If Woojin was suddenly this big bad bully, then why would Hyunjin's first instinct be to protect him? During his time at Stray Kids, Woojin was often referred to as the father of the group. He was described as being a calm, comforting person, and specifically the youngest was very open about Woojin being his favorite. But for those who had been following him after he left the group, they were aware of certain details that this accuser apparently was not. Armed with this information, a group was formed between some Stray Kids fans, Kim Woojin's fans, and some non-K-pop stans who found these accusations highly suspicious. One of them pulled up the information for this account posing as a JYP Entertainment employee coming out of South Korea, and found from the metadata that in fact the Twitter account was posting from somewhere in the Western Hemisphere. The day after Woojin left, a JYP idol at the time, who was close to the members, posted their 9 representative emojis. This was not to say that Woojin was coming back to the group, but to show support for all of them. This is the same artist who Woojin would go visit in China 3 weeks later on November 19th at a concert. Additionally, 2 days after Woojin left, a staff member from JYP Entertainment posted this photo of him with the 2 arms emoji, meaning fighting, as in they were rooting for him. Woojin continued to receive support from JYP Entertainment staff, including the group's music video director from Division 1 who followed his Instagram account. I won't be posting them, but in fact several JYP Entertainment staff left the company to go be by Woojin's side at the time of the accusations.
저랑 너무 얘기 많이 하는 것 같아서 이제 좀 안 해도 될 것 같아.
그래, 오케이.
안녕.
두 키즈 룸.
야, 어제는 우리가 되게 방도 많이 쓰고 이번 미국에서도 같이 막 이렇게 오랫동안 룸메이트하고 그래서 얘기를 많이 하잖아.
되게 진지한 이야기를 많이 하죠.
맞아.
This video, uploaded 3 weeks after Yellowwood, shows clearly that they are often up late nights playing video games together, waiting for their third roommate Changbin to come back from the studio.
이렇게 서로 있는 고민들을 많이 얘기하는 것 같아, 그지?
고민이 많으면 이제 멤버들이랑 같이 단체로 많이 얘기를 하긴 하는데 우재 형이랑 같이 방을 쓰니까 또 이제 창민 형도 곡 작업도 많이 하고 또 이제 늦게 돌아오니까 이제 나랑 또 우진 형이랑 같이 시간도 많이 내고 많이 놀잖아.
그치? 사람 안 오지? 어? 안 와. 형밖에 없지?
우진이 형도 있어.
This was weeks before Woojin left. Why would the staff put that he was the best for the youngest if he was harming the members? Overlooking the extreme racism of calling an Asian man a virus, you can see here that in 2022 these Stray Kids fans push this narrative that somehow Woojin is to blame for Stray Kids' earlier sales, as if the group wasn't just organically growing like every other group would. In fact, here's TXT's first day sales and their first week sales. You can see over the years, especially from 2020, there was a huge jump in sales because of the pandemic. A lot of people became interested in K-pop and started to pay attention to it. Here it is again with NCT Dream. As you can see, their sales changed drastically as we hit 2020. This is true too for Stray Kids. The only reason Stray Kids had an increase just a month prior to everybody else is because Woojin had left, creating a huge buzz on the internet. Because he was trending with over 600,000 posts, it brought fresh eyes to the group and fresh eyes to K-pop in general. Stray Kids fans declared that they were going to put their full support behind promoting this album. So yes, Woojin leaving did positively affect their sales, just not for negative reasons as they tried to imply. When Woojin left, it also added a distraction to K-pop stans in general. Because everybody was talking about Woojin's departure, a lot of K-pop stans abandoned their hate campaign against Christopher Bang Chan temporarily. Woojin's departure also put an end to K-pop stans calling for him to become the leader of Stray Kids, even though it was a fairly or relatively small group of people who continued pushing this narrative. Every time Bang Chan would make a mistake in the eyes of K-pop stans, this would pop up. These non-Stray Kids fans calling for Woojin to be leader were also not fans of Woojin. They were simply trolling, but now that Woojin had left, they no longer had this avenue to troll stays with. Now, because I've spent enough time lurking in Stray Kids fandom to know exactly where this spin will go, no, he would not have been aware that there were some people who wanted him to be the leader because it was always in English and he didn't speak English. On September 15, 2020, a user claiming to be from the Philippines posted a still of Kim Woojin, which was supposedly taken from a video of him in a club harassing women. They claimed they did not have the video because the distribution of it is prohibited. It was first posted on Facebook and then moved to TikTok and Twitter, in total receiving a few million views. They also included this photo that Kim Woojin had uploaded to his Instagram account, claiming this was him standing outside of the club. The only problem is that footage, the reason they couldn't post the full video is because it was from 2018. The individual in question in the video is Kim Sang-kyo, the whistleblower in the Burning Sun scandal. If they had provided the video, then people would have recognized it from the Burning Sun scandal and would have recognized immediately that they were using this footage to frame Woojin. Unfortunately, these people decided that using the stories of real survivors of a horrific case of drugging, sex trafficking, and sexual assault would be the perfect tool to use against Woojin to destroy his career. These women who had been through horrific abuse now had their stories being used as a tool for revenge against a man for leaving a K-pop group. A lot of information can be found online about the Burning Sun scandal. Trigger warning, it is very traumatic. But in the end, there was a trial and the perpetrators did end up going to jail, and in 2024, earlier this year, there was an update on the case. In the comments, I will provide links to updates about the Burning Sun scandal. As for the photo evidence provided, it was posted by Woojin himself on his Instagram on the 11th of June. This picture was not taken outside of a nightclub. In fact, it was taken on a random street outside of a clothing store. As you can see from these screenshots, the same elements provided in his photo are shown right here, and here's the corner street angle of the same spot. He was nowhere near a nightclub. Unlike most of the accusers who came forward, one of the accusers did provide some photo evidence as well as a specific date. They alleged that on April 29th, they had met Woojin in a nightclub and he had bought them whiskey and gotten them drunk, tried to get close to them, touched them, and tried to get them to touch him on his private parts. He echoed the exact same sentiments of the first accuser, that his fans don't know who he really is, and saying that he likes Western girls because they are curvy. They alleged that the sliver of gray in the photo with the whiskey is in fact a picture of Woojin, also using a picture from his Instagram to show proof that he was there. As you can see, they uploaded this photo April 29th, 2020 at 2:16 a.m. The photo from Woojin's Instagram, however, even though it was uploaded April 29th, it was taken March 10th. He provided the original himself from his camera roll. Netizens were questioning the validity of the accusation considering the discrepancy in the photo date. Others came to explain that he may have just worn this shirt on a different day. While examining the photo provided in the accusation, Kim Woojin's CEO from his company 10X noticed two things: that the photo was in a square, which means it came from Instagram, and secondly, the whiskey was unfamiliar. The CEO of 10X Entertainment is a whiskey connoisseur, and he didn't recognize this whiskey, so they decided to look through import-export data, and they found that this is a new whiskey that had just been launched recently in Korea. Because the whiskey was so new to Korea, they looked through the Glenn Berge hashtag on Instagram and found the picture. Once they located the owner of the photo, a Teen Vogue editor reached out to him to try and find out if he had ever met Kim Woojin or if Woojin had been at the bar with him that night. This is the conversation that he provided from his DMs with the Teen Vogue editor. You can pause to read. The Instagram user who this photo belonged to advised that he had taken this picture in an Itaewon bar on August 29th, named Crown B Bar. He also stated that he did not know Kim Woojin and he was not there at the time of the photo. Shortly afterward, he updated his Instagram with this message, incredibly upset that someone would steal his photo in this way. He advised that he had been with his friends only, and he hopes that no one else is unfairly harmed by the theft of his photo. To prove that he had been the one to take the picture, he provided the full-length, uncropped version of it. Armed with this information, Woojin's agency, 10X Entertainment, then requested CCTV footage from the bar.
Look at them setting up the whiskey nice and pretty for the Instagram photo. Right there. That's the historic moment this picture was taken, and it was all captured in the CCTV video. Fast forward, Woojin's nowhere to be seen, and most decisively, no women at the table, right? And most importantly, the upload date of this picture. The date at QP1QSOKW2XQYOYK claimed to have met Woojin was April 29th. But the date this original photo was uploaded was August 31st, 8 days prior to the accusing tweet. Just by the timeline itself, it doesn't make sense.
Now you might be thinking that he could have been somewhere in the bar, just not visible in the photo screen. So here are pictures of Crown B Bar. It is not a large establishment. The photo was taken here on the left, and you can see that the bar is right there on the right. There is no additional space. For those of you who are not into K-pop, what you should know is there are some K-pop stans who prey on the downfall of idols. They don't see K-pop idols as human, but like characters in a movie to be played, wishing on their downfall, even their death. Most of the Stray Kids fans attacking Woojin were also attempting to get other fan bases on their side. In this case, they used a member of BTS in their accusation. This would be the first out of 4 times that they would attempt to get BTS's army to attack Woojin. In their accusation, they used one of the most recognizable faces in Korea, Park Jimin, stating that Woojin had attempted to violate Jimin, and because Jimin was allegedly too drunk according to this accuser, he allegedly moved on to this 9NBMOX person and beat them badly. They also provided these photos which they had taken from Pinterest and TripAdvisor to try and pass them off as photos of themselves at these bars. With these photos, they also provided video stolen from one of BTS's fans. The video was uploaded on the 9th of September 2019, and it showed Jimin in a bar in Paris completely sober playing a game. This exact moment is where the photo was stolen from, proving that this accuser was in fact not telling the truth. While doing my research into what happened here, I kept hearing the same phrase repeated over and over. I'd rather believe a liar than a potential abuser. The only problem with this is that it's not just about believing the liar, it's also about your actions after that. Believing someone means helping them get the resources to help them get justice. It does not mean playing judge, jury, and executioner and going after the accused. Because once you do that, you're not just believing a potential liar, you yourself are becoming a potential abuser. In cases of harassment and assault, it can be difficult to provide proof. However, in this case where they refused to give a date, place, or time, falsified evidence, and even then, bullied and abused anybody who even dared to question the accusations, you have to think logically. A group of Stray Kids fans, from here on out I will call them by their fandom name, which is Stay, after watching Chan's V-Live on March 25th, decided that Woojin needed to be punished for whatever it was that Chan was alluding to. A line you will see them repeat often is he must have done something. This group of Stay, called Sun7, allegedly planned the entire thing in a WhatsApp group chat. The 3 main players being Rafa, her sister Milena, and the one they called the mother of the group, Tyus. For this accusation, we're going to need to go in chronological order. As of February 2020, Milena was sad about the departure of Woojin. She also followed him on Twitter, commenting on his picture that he posted March 6th. Now remember, despite doing well in terms of their music, Stray Kids were still facing a lot of backlash from the K-pop community. And once again, even though Woojin had not announced plans for a solo career, this Stray Kids fan was worried that other Stray Kids fans would rather listen to his music over Stray Kids. They went as far as to call Woojin's fanbase problematic for not requiring a reason from him for his departure. As you know, as a result of the Idol Itaewon scandal, they would then start to accuse Woojin of having been in sketchy nightclubs using K-Stays as their shield. Up until here, as you can see, every single accusation against Woojin is either based on just some rumor that they created out of thin air, or based on something that was happening at the time that they then decided to accuse him of being involved in. There were no sketchy clubs involved in the Itaewon scandal regardless. There isn't one report, Korean or otherwise, that places Woojin there. August of 2020, Tyus was wrapping up her exchange program in South Korea. She had posted this statement to Twitter. On September 1st, a person who we now know to be friends with Rafa and Milena posted that they had created the Confess My Day account, and in a month's time there would be fire on the playground. This account would post confessions of fans from the group Day6, a JYP Entertainment boy group. Later, the account would go through 2 name changes, but as you can see, the poster was using Brazilian Portuguese. September 4th, Milena, who had never been to Korea, would be the first to accuse Woojin of assaulting strangers in nightclubs. This is 3 days before the first accusation would surface. About 3 hours before the first accusation, Tyus would then continue to talk about idols and things she had found out while in South Korea, stating that if you just make the right contacts, you can find out things about idols there, some of which she would rather not know. 3 hours later, the Confess My Day account would have a different name and would post the first accusation, giving the hint Woo Big 3. They wanted to let his fans know that he wasn't a good person and that they shouldn't be supporting him. They also stated that they were close with Woojin's friends and they know now who he is, and they were very disappointed. They detailed an encounter of sexual harassment, leaving out the date, time, and place. When the account first posted the accusations, it did not have enough followers for it to go anywhere. Rafa, with her 8,000 followers, then retweeted it to make sure that people would pay attention to the account, and Tyus was the first person to allude to who this was about, calling for Stray Kids fans to notice the accusation. Brazilian K-pop stans then started to question the accusation, noting that it was the same account that had started as a Confess My Day account. Now you'll remember Seungji Notes had been the first to post that the Confess My Day account had been open on September 1st. Then stated whoever is doing all this said that they had initially created the account to interact with people. They then tried to explain their association with the account. However, now we know that the owner of this account is close with members of the Sun7 WhatsApp group. Despite the lack of evidence, Milena came online to explain that anyone who didn't believe her would be blocked, and her friends came to explain their association. Despite the accusation being that Ujin had been at an unspecified bar at an unspecified time and groped this anonymous victim, K-pop stans quickly started to throw the word rape around. Milena had to come to the internet to explain he didn't rape anybody, that this was allegedly a case of harassment. Keep in mind that the accuser never stated Ujin's name. It was only Milena and Rafa and Pius who then alluded to stays. Milena tweeted up a storm, expressing how happy she was that her friend decided to expose him and answering any questions that anybody had, putting herself right at the center. Because the account had originally been tweeting in Portuguese when it was under Confess My Day and was now accusing Ujin in Korean, people started to question the legitimacy of the accusation. The account also alluded to more victims and stated that someone had tried to hack them. They then deleted the account. Milena then came back to Twitter to convince everyone that the accusation was indeed true, exposing that the accuser is actually not Korean but is from Brazil, and that's why she knows that person. Now remember, the accuser had started their accusations in Google translated Korean. The point was to try and make people believe that they were tweeting out of Korea, which is also why they posted in the middle of the night in Brazil, because they wanted to make it seem as if they were posting in the middle of the afternoon from Korea. Milena, realizing her mistake, then began to panic, because this brought even more questions about the accusations. Why are you playing a guessing game? Why are you pretending to be from a country you're not? And why are you speaking in a language that you don't speak using Google Translate? She would then go on to blame everybody else for her slip-up, setting off a series of tweets about how bad she felt and how she had been speaking to her friend and that her intentions were pure. Please remember here that Milena states that she's very close to the accuser and they are very important to her. At this time, Rafa came back to the timeline to tell everyone that her sister had shown her a picture of him leaving a brothel. She presented this photo as evidence of him leaving this brothel, the same picture that she had already commented on way back when in November 2019 when he had visited his friend in China. Again, this is Ujin exiting a concert hall, and this was information that Rafa knew. At this point, Ujin had been facing baseless accusation after baseless accusation. For months, he'd been accused of getting a man pregnant, getting another man pregnant, getting another man pregnant, himself being pregnant, and getting a fan site pregnant. The fan site in question, however, had closed in September of 2019, more than a month and a half before Ujin would leave the group. Almost exactly a year later, when Ujin was being accused of sexual misconduct by Stray Kids fans, they would resurface it once again. And even though they had created it and circulated it just 6 months prior, so it should have still been fresh in their minds as a joke, this joke then spread worldwide, and for some people they believed it was real, as if it was pure fact, with their reasoning being it must be true because JYP Entertainment just wouldn't let their main vocalist go. Armed with their imagination and refusal to accept that they were not entitled to his reason for leaving, they dreamed up a love child for him. From the point of view of someone who knew they were innocent, this had reached the highest levels of absurdity. For 10 months, groups of Stay had been constantly trying to come up with new ways to accuse Ujin of something. For those 10 months, he ignored all of it, because these accusations were baseless. But at this point, because this was spreading rapidly and people were believing it, he was forced to respond. Keep in mind that Ujin is responding to a Brazilian national, writing in Google translated Korean, playing guessing games with somebody named Woo, who they met at an undisclosed place somewhere in Itaewon sometime in June, stating they were groped by him in a very public place and that they had a conversation with him in a language he doesn't speak, or at least didn't at the time because Ujin's English was very limited in 2020. This is how Instagram translated the text. And this is the direct translation of what he said. Ujin needed to inform everyone that the company that was going to come forward to be talking on his behalf is the company he just now signed with. They were a brand new company and hadn't yet gotten the chance to even launch yet. Ujin also attempted to explain why he'd been quiet for so many months because he'd been updating photos to Instagram but hadn't said a word. He also explained that he has been working all of this time, hasn't been to any clubs in Itaewon, and hasn't met this person who was accusing him. He then advised that the company would be in touch to handle the matter. K-pop stans jumped at this chance to control the narrative, presenting his statement as an apology in an attempt to show presumed guilt. They then misrepresented completely what he had said because his original statement was posted in Korean. Because Ujin had mentioned what he had been doing during the months where he had been quiet and provided context as to why he had signed to a new company, they accused him of promoting a solo debut, despite him not once saying anything about debuting. They also accused him of being deceptive because the accuser did not give any information about who they were except that they are Brazilian and could not speak Korean. They also didn't give an exact date, time, or location where they claimed to have met Woojin. They just said Itaewon in a nightclub. Now, I can tell you exactly where I was the entire year of 2020 due to the pandemic. Even in Korea, where there was no lockdown period, there were heightened measures for people to take precautions because of COVID-19. This is why any idol or public figure who was caught downtown or anywhere at nightclubs was quickly reported on. The accuser had given enough details for him to determine whether he had met her or not. They said they met him sometime 3 months ago, so that would have been in June. They said that they are Brazilian, and they didn't speak in Korean, hence the Google Translate, but they did speak in clear English, a language that Woojin didn't speak. I find it incredibly difficult to believe that Woojin quietly traveled to China and still somebody managed to take a photo of him. But in his own country, in a very crowded place like Itaewon, he was able to go to nightclubs, harass women, get drunk and disorderly, and not one person took a photo of him, not even to sell to the tabloids for money. Not one CCTV camera caught him. Not one bar owner or bar patron reported him to the police. Nothing? At this time, International Stay continued to say that Korean Stay had told them about Woojin being caught at hunting bars. However, none of them ever provided evidence. When asked for that evidence, they would say, "I'll find it for you," and then never provide it. As of today, February 2024, this evidence has still not been produced. In fact, Korean Stays were incredibly confused, and they were trying to figure out exactly what happened. And as you can see on the bottom left screenshot, there was no evidence on the Korean side of any of this ever happening. Going into this, I was under the mistaken impression that everyone was aware that Instagram will auto-delete comments that look like spam. Instagram will also delete comments that they see as derogatory or bullying. Stray Kids fans assumed that Woojin was somehow reading thousands of comments in real time, translating them into Korean, and deleting them all very quickly at the speed of a computer. In their minds, this was apparently possible, and therefore proof of guilt. 10X Entertainment, a newly found company which had not yet had the chance to launch publicly, then had to quickly create social media accounts and a social media presence so they could defend their newly signed artist. Originally, when 10X came to social media, they had a different logo. K-pop stans then did a reverse Google image search to try and find out where the logo came from, and they got a hit from a furniture store. They also looked up through Google 10X Entertainment as a company, and they found a DJ duo in Chicago. After harassing the DJ duo to make a statement, they then had to come to social media to explain that they did not know Woojin or this potentially controversial situation. I'm not entirely sure why K-pop stans decided to search through Google and not Naver, the Korean search engine, in order to find a Korean company. However, if they had, they would have easily found 10X Entertainment, founded July 27th, 2020, well before the accusations. In addition, companies in different countries can share logos as long as there's no copyright claims or copyright laws. However, this didn't stop K-pop stans from then just making things up out of thin air. For example, that Woojin was blacklisted. There is nowhere that they could have found out that he was blacklisted or that he had been faking his entire career, considering up until this moment, he had not even been active as an idol. Back to the group of Brazilian Stray Kids fans, they expressed their relief that their friend had finally come forward in this conversation. Who is Ortolan allegedly is Julia, and Captain Chris B is allegedly Sayonara, all part of the Sun 7 group chat. As you can see from February, Sayonara had her full name listed on her account and would later change it. Here's her and Rafa together. They would continue to tweet at each other, reassuring each other that they did the right thing by coming forward. They all changed their profiles to a picture of Bang Chan's face to show solidarity with the group. They then demanded that anyone who doesn't believe their accusations that came without proof should unfollow them. Rafa then exposed their primary motive, asking everyone to help promote Stray Kids' comeback off the back of a sexual harassment allegation. Stray Kids had an album coming out in less than a week from the accusations. The album named In Life. Even though it had been 10 months since Woojin left, they were also constantly being asked about whether he was coming back and why he left. Stray Kids, some of whom would post #9 with every single post, had now since February of 2020 been posting #8. When Felix came online on September 9th to post about the album, the caption read #stay, #believe, #IN, #StrayKids, #8. The IN or IN capitalized to reference the album. Stray Kids fans took this to mean that Felix was telling them that they were right, that Woojin was a bad person. Rafa more than anyone believed that Felix was talking to them. She would then for the second time mention that he was at a prostitution area, referencing the picture she'd already provided of Woojin leaving the Rise concert in November of 2019. Soon after the first accusation, suddenly other accounts started to come forward accusing Woojin. Hwang's Americano, a Stray Kids translation account, came forward to translate what the accuser was saying. They stated that Woojin is a misogynist and he was with somebody by the name of S, alluding to Seungri of Big Bang, the accuser 5LFJRH and so on, trying to implicate him as part of the Burning Sun scandal again. The account also stated that Woojin had said bad things about Stray Kids leader who was a good person and Woojin is a bad person. They stated explicitly that they are a Stray Kids fan and that Woojin gave them a bottle of soju and they passed out at a club where they can also sing karaoke. Knowing that Woojin had once been a trainee at SM, the accusers also implicated members of boy groups from SM Entertainment. These members were completely innocent just like Woojin, but in order to try and give credibility to their accusations, they name-dropped idols who Woojin had been associated with in the past that weren't members of Stray Kids. A stalker fan, Asasang, came forward and stated they had been outside of NCT members' home and they had never left during those months, therefore they couldn't have been involved. Later, international Stray Kids fans would accuse Korean Stray Kids fans of fabricating sexual assault allegations against NCT members in order to deflect blame away from Woojin. Some international Stray Kids fans came forward to declare that it was a lie because he had no Korean fans, while others stated that Korean fans were trying to stage a cover-up in order to protect the group. All the while, Korean Stray Kids fans were completely unaware of anything that was happening because they were not involved at all. When native speakers of Chinese came forward to read the accusations of these Chinese accounts, they noticed that the grammar was completely off. Because the person's Chinese was so bad and at times gibberish, they could tell that it was straight from Google Translate. Now that people had caught on to the fact that this accusation was likely false or at least highly suspicious because the person was pretending to be Chinese, the blame was falling on Korean Stray Kids fans in order to validate the original accusation. However, this person is not Korean. This person is Hispanic. And how do we know? Because of this word right here. Machista. Most Chinese written characters are syllabic. What this means is that a character will represent a syllable sound. Google Translate will try and find the closest relatable character to the word that is being written. For example here, ma, ki, si, ta. This word does not exist in the Chinese language, but it does exist in Spanish, and the word means sexist. They weren't trying to translate from English to Chinese or Korean to Chinese. They were translating from Spanish to Chinese. And before they deleted the account, they stated that people were trying to recover their password and accidentally used the Spanish ñ. On a typical English speaker's keyboard, the N and the P are so far apart. In order to get the ñ, you would have to hold down the N. On a keyboard for someone who speaks Spanish, the ñ and the P are right next to each other, making it quite easy to accidentally click it. As you already know, Woojin's friendships with NCT members were already public knowledge, and these Stray Kids fans were using it in order to legitimize their accusations. Another user going by the handle GXHWN was central in steering the conversation around Woojin and the accusations. Besides Rafaela and Milena, they also claimed to be part of it and confirmed that it was Woojin who was the person being accused. Because the first accuser was avoiding a defamation lawsuit, they never actually stated Woojin by name, but this account did on behalf of the first accuser. What made it spread even further is large accounts would weigh in on the situation without ever waiting for confirmation of actual wrongdoing. Many online K-pop blogs posted about the accusations. No real publication would cover this story outside of Teen Vogue, who initially took interest, but once they realized that K-pop stans were lying and using sexual assault to cancel an idol, they didn't publish anything else on the matter. Stray Kids fans then grabbed screenshots from old videos to try and show times where Stray Kids had been pranking Woojin as proof that they hated him all along. Most of them left up their tweets and their Instagram posts. If you follow the Woojin is over party or Woojail or Woojin anti hashtags on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, really anywhere there's a platform, you'll find them. Now that these Stray Kids fans had successfully cancelled Woojin using a lie about sexual assault, K-pop stans took the time to make joke after joke about the situation. The jokes often revolved around the Burning Sun scandal, constantly trying to associate Eugene with it. Many found it funny that his Instagram account was mass reported until it was taken down, some even blaming him for it.
So Woojo deleted his Instagram account. Does he like think that it's gonna like help him? Cause it's not. Like what did he think deleting his account was gonna do? Cause it's not gonna do anything. It's making it all worse. But yeah.
Ironically, K-pop stans would later accuse Eugene of making a joke of sexual assault while he was defending himself. The same people who went around making joke after joke about sexual assault, thinking it was hilarious to link him to the Burning Sun scandal, laughing at the effects that this had on his company and their efforts to clear his name, labeling him as a predator, and of course positioning themselves as better than Eugene's fans because they stan Stray Kids, and Eugene's fans now are fans of a criminal.
Right now I'm dating this cute young fine thug thing, but right now he locked up and whatever. Thug been trying to tell me that I should leave him and whatnot. Well, guess what? Behind bars.
No matter what Eugene's company presented to show proof that they were a real and legitimate company, K-pop stans accuse them of lying because anonymous Twitter accounts are more credible than legally registered documentation. K-pop stans even went as far as to create a fake YouTube page for Eugene's new company, knowing that this was a brand new company who had not yet had the chance to set up any official social media accounts. They took advantage. Not satisfied with just defaming Eugene, they went after his company too. The punchline was sexual assault. Tony LeGarrette was a YouTuber who would frequently do palm readings of celebrities, sometimes K-pop idols. He had done one of these such readings for each member of Stray Kids. With Eugene's, it was particularly focused around his sex life. K-pop stans were shocked at how accurate it was, because Eugene turned out to be a deviant. This spread far and wide in the K-pop community. It never occurred to them. The people accusing Eugene had used Tony's words in order to shape their accusation. As of today, Tony LeGarrette has shut down his YouTube channel. In their pursuit of Eugene, these stays lost Tony an additional stream of income. Falsely accusing him of sexual assault was not good enough. Releasing a nude that they thought was his in an attempt to revenge porn him was not good enough. Teaming up with a stalker or a sasaeng, these Stray Kids fans then took his phone number and revealed it to the world, spreading it as far and wide as possible, celebrating that people now had direct access to abuse him. Later, it was discovered that one of the accounts that had been heavily involved in accusing Eugene was a Stray Kids fan who had earlier that year accused another Stray Kids fan of being a sasaeng and following Bangchan around. During this time, while Eugene was being defamed, one of his fans reached out to a popular YouTube creator from Spain named Dallas Review. The K-pop stans who had spent the last few days laughing and joking about sexual harassment at Eugene's expense were now upset. He said he's going to take it as a joke. He's not going to be serious about it. They were quick to assassinate Dallas's character because in their minds he was automatically going to defend Eugene. They tried to do everything in their power to stop him from looking at the case. They threatened to mass report his YouTube. They tried to assassinate his character, said that he shouldn't talk about it because he's not in K-pop. I'm not sure what that would have to do with a sexual harassment claim. And above all else, the accusers then started to say they didn't want anybody reviewing or examining the evidence. After days of laughs and jokes at Eugene's expense, countless TikTok videos laughing at the situation, countless YouTube videos parodying him being in jail, K-pop stans accused Dallas of not taking the situation seriously and making light of sexual harassment and sexual assault. All this before his video had even been published. Most of these tweets still exist on Twitter. You are very welcome to go ahead and fact check for yourself. And in any situation, I encourage you to fact check whatever anyone tells you. It should be a standard practice for anyone on the internet. If anyone ever gives you a piece of information without telling you the source of the information or where you can find it, give you an actual peer-reviewed article or something from a reputable news source and not some fan-run blog site, then you should be asking why. Why are they not giving me proof? Why am I required to believe something just because somebody said it on the internet, a stranger? Now you'll remember when the first accusers came forward, K-pop stans wanted to trend tags in South Korea in order to get the South Korean public to take notice. If this all happened in South Korea and it was a well-known fact that he was some kind of deviant and predator in South Korea, then why would they need to trend tags in South Korea? Wouldn't they have been the first to know? Some Stray Kids fans' primary objective was the group and not the victims. They urged each other to report the video as soon as it was uploaded in order to not impact Stray Kids' album release. They called Dallas and his fans misogynistic because they didn't comply with their demands to not speak about this outside of the K-pop world. They harassed Dallas so much that he was forced to say something. He spoke about how much he was being threatened by K-pop stans.
Antes de comenzar el vídeo debo haceros una advertencia muy importante. Debo advertiros de que algunas K-popers estuvieron tratando de extorsionarme para que no hiciera este vídeo, literal intentando silenciarme. Las contactaron y les dijeron que yo, un youtuber español que había sido acusado, iba a hacer un vídeo al respecto.
In the end, he uploaded 2 videos which you can view on his channel. Non-consensual image sharing or revenge porn is a form of sexual assault. Not content with having doxed Ujin, they then released a photo that they said was his, a naked photo of a boy. Ujin's ears are detached and the person had attached earlobes, which means it was not Ujin, among other bodily features which I will not show you. But they had no problem sharing these nudes. The same people who were saying that Ujin does not respect sexual assault survivors because he said he didn't do it and gave an alibi were now sexually assaulting him, or at least they hoped they were. As this Twitter user points out, that Stays took the time to bully, harass, and sexually assault Ujin because they were under the impression that he was a bully and a sexual assaulter, putting them in the exact same position as him. In the end, Ujin was innocent of all things he was accused of, but they weren't. They continued their destruction of Ujin by then taking events that happened in the past and completely changing the narrative in order to make them about Ujin or to make Ujin the bad guy in these situations, accusing Ujin of making the members cry and feel like they were going to lose their fans. But the reality is the members had just finished watching a video detailing their journey. I've muted the video because it does contain a Stray Kids instrumental. However, I can tell you that in this video, there is not one shot of Ujin. The fans had cut him out of the video. Korean Stray Kids fans had respected his wishes and moved on. This footage took place November 24th, 2019. This was their second and last day in Korea for their tour. This was one of those vulnerable moments that Stray Kids fans were exploiting to try and make it seem as if Ujin had done this horrible, terrible thing that even a month after he left and they went on tour, they were in such a desperate state. Hyunjin then gave a speech about how hard it was for all of them, how they all had worked so hard to debut, how all of them had obstacles. That would be all 9 of them. Because of the music playing, it will have to be in silence, but I will let you watch the rest of the fan project so you can understand what he was reacting to.
와! 우!
Stray Kids fans present only the last part of the clip, this part, showing them crying, and then tell you that they're crying because Woojin left them and they didn't know what to do. What they don't tell you is this was a full month after Woojin had left. As I said earlier, this was their second show, and this would not be the last time they would cry like this because of a fan project. From here on out, any vulnerable moment showed by Stray Kids would be used to vilify Woojin, crafting the perfect story so that they could control the narrative around any moment they had in order to make it about him. These narratives would then be spread far and wide throughout their fandom, translated into different languages, but somehow still word for word, the same narrative. They will spend the next 4 years finding different reasons to justify why they abuse him, and anytime Woojin reacts to their abuse, they will use that and say, no, you see this, the thing that he did as a reaction to our abuse, is the reason we abuse him. And anytime Woojin has opened up about the abuse he receives or his fans have talked about it, Stray Kids fans accuse him of being attention-seeking and ridicule him for being abused. In 2019, when this happened, this is how most Stray Kids fans spoke about it. They acknowledged that the members were crying because of a fan project that they had been watching, something that detailed their journey so far, something that made them cry because it was important to them. During Hyunjin's vulnerable moment, the other members were laughing and couldn't quite understand why he was crying. If it was about Woojin, they all would have had that shared sentiment. And less than a month later, the leader Bang Chan would poke fun at Hyunjin for that moment in particular. As you can see, he was imitating Hyunjin, and as you can hear, Stray Kids fans found it funny. This is the crowd they were standing in front of, a packed, sold-out crowd. Something that's important to note is that Hyunjin had been the subject of bullying rumors since before he debuted. This is a clip from 2018, right after debut, where he was crying on stage being comforted by Woojin. Bullying is taken extremely seriously in Korea. You can lose your entire career because of it. These rumors continued to affect Hyunjin throughout his career until eventually he had to go on hiatus in 2021, which we'll talk about later. But here he is, talking about how he doesn't think he's worthy of love and doesn't think he should receive love. So when he told the crowd in 2019 that we will become a Stray Kids you can be proud of, and he was the only one worried about this while the rest of them were laughing and confused as to why he was upset, it only makes sense that this is what he was talking about, because it followed him throughout his career, and even at the time there were petitions to get him removed from the group because of these bullying rumors. If it had had anything to do with Woojin, the rest of the group would have known exactly why he was upset and wouldn't have been confused as to why he was crying. There were many videos clipped out of context in order to implicate Woojin as this bad person that Stray Kids had been trying to get rid of for years. These clips were used in order to attempt to prove that Stray Kids had hated Woojin all along, and they'd always wanted him to get out of the group. In the next few upcoming clips, you will see how Stray Kids fans try to present this moment that Felix is having, and what actually happened. Felix is back in Australia for the first time since becoming a trainee, and he's giving a speech to a crowd, very nervous.
Not only one brother, but 7 brothers. I sometimes I know what it's like now. And having to have not only one brother, but 7 brothers. So, my bad. Sorry. 8 brothers. 8 brothers. Having 8 brothers beside me. 7 brothers and 1 girlfriend? Oh yeah! We became Stray Kids, so I just want to say thank you to all my 9 members, all my 8 members, sorry. 8! I said 8! I said 8! 8! Alright, 8 members, sorry. Right now, I'm so nervous right now, but I'm so thankful to our little brother, Ian. He's always kind, always showing love. I'm thankful to Han for showing all his effort and his cool side, and I really enjoy that. I was seeing Lil who's always dancing and he was always showing me how to do stuff. And really it's taught me a lot. I'm thankful to Woojin Young who's always showing, he's really a dog. He really knows how to do things, so really thankful for that. Changbin Young is always teaching me how to rap, teaching me new stuff, and I'm very thankful for that. And Hyunjin always being by my side as a good friend and a dancer, so I'm really thankful for that. And not only, but lastly, our leader, Chunny Young, Christopher. Oh! Wait, no, I'm not done yet. Felix is a bit... I'm not done yet! And Singmin! Sorry. And Singmin!
As for Woojin, he was full of nothing but praise for the Stray Kids members, specifically Bangchan and Felix. Acknowledging the hardships of leaving your family behind, his comforting words brought them to tears.
정말 고생했다고 얘기해주고 싶어요.
I can say good job for so far, everything you've done to both Felix and Bangchan. I can't breathe.
특히 필릭스 같은 경우에는 한국에 와서 한국에 와서 연습을 시작하고 아이돌이 되기 위해서 연습을 시작하고 지금 이 자리에 오기까지 호주를 한 번도 못 왔었거든요.
Especially Felix, because he hasn't been able to come back to Australia ever since he left for being an idol.
정말 힘들 때도 많고 집에 가고 싶을 때도 분명히 많았을 텐데 그거 정말 잘 참고 열심히 연습해준 필릭스에게 정말 고생했다고 고맙다고 얘기해주고 싶습니다.
There must have been so many hardships that we don't know about, and I want to say thank you for putting up with it and great job for it all.
그리고 늘 저희 스트레이키즈 잘 이끌어주는 또 저희 리더 찬이한테 또 고맙다고 얘기하고 있습니다.
I want to say thank you to our main leader, Bangchan, for leading us everywhere. Thank you.
오늘 정말 호주에 와서 언베일을 하게 돼서 너무 영광이고 정말 이 뜨거운 열정에 감동받고 갑니다. 고마워요, 스테이.
So good to see so many passionate people for us, and I thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, I love you!
A lot of idols suffer from anxiety, and Woojin is not exempt from this. In order to legitimize their sexual harassment claims, Stray Kids fans then clipped Woojin, moving his fingers side to side over his thigh. They allege that he didn't leave in October of 2019, he was actually kicked out because in February 2017, before they even had a survival show, and before they would even debut, he had been caught in a lewd act, and they would still put him through to the survival show, they would still debut him, and keep him in the group for 2 years before they decided that this was the reason that he needed to leave? No, the truth is, he was scratching his leg. They blurred it on purpose to try and make it seem as if he was higher up on his leg. Woojin has this nervous habit of constantly moving his fingers and his hands. In this clip, you can see he's doing the exact same motion just over the knee instead of above the knee. Here again in this interview from 2021 with DKDK TV, you can see just how much of an anxiety habit this is. He holds his hands, he moves them across his knees, he rubs his thighs. This is a normal anxiety habit, and to turn it into a lewd act is despicable. In addition, JYP Entertainment would have incurred huge fines should that have been the case. In this clip, the placement of his left hand is exactly where his hand was in the other video. The next 4 clips were the most widely circulated. All of these clips were normal interactions, but in 2020, they would be turned into proof of Woojin being an aggressive bully who harmed the members. Let's start with the first one, a skit. In anticipation of the planned skit, you can see Jung-in move directly behind Changbin, getting ready for Woojin to come and grab him. At that moment, Changbin too is playing along. Woojin then goes to grab Jung-in by the wrist and pushes him forward. Jung-in throws himself to the ground, and then they both help him up, smiling and laughing, all 3 of them. Jung-in then taps Woojin on the butt and they continue performing. This was not a violent act, this was a planned skit based on the lyrics in the song. of which they have many, for example this one, and this one. Another favorite among Stray Kids fans is this footage from March of 2019, 7 months before Woojin would leave the group. Stray Kids were preparing to go to Australia for their tour and filmed a game for their Finding SKZ program. At one point during the game, Woojin and Felix face off and Woojin takes Felix's tag. Stray Kids fans present this as bullying, as a vicious beating where Woojin hanged Felix and took his tag. But let's watch it in slow motion. Woojin's left hand is already holding the tag. Felix whips his body around to try and stop Woojin from taking the tag. As you can see, he pulls Woojin off the bench with his body weight after Woojin put his hand behind Felix's back so he wouldn't hurt himself. Stray Kids fans presented very differently. According to them, he was a vicious bully who threw Felix into the bench, trying to hurt him so he could take his tag, and this was extremely violent, when in reality, Woojin took steps to make sure Felix didn't hurt himself. Here is a still of the exact moment they're referring to as choking. Some even call it attempted murder. You can see Woojin's hand is flat across Felix's back. His other hand is holding the tag. His thumb is around the tag. It's not around Felix's neck. In 2020, they would present Bang Chan tackling Woojin as revenge for him viciously attacking Felix. This is also a lie.
기대되는 멤버 하나예요. 아이유 스타 아닙니까? 우진이 형이랑 찬이 형 먼저.
The day before filming the segment, Stray Kids were sitting around trying to decide who would win. They decided that the two strongest players were Bang Chan and Woojin.
아니 그 순간 보내버리자고. 찬이 형이랑 길목에서 만났어. 그럼 어떻게 할까? 조만간 잡혀요. 한번 맞닥뜨린 김에. 생각보다 찬이 형 약해.
Between the two of them, Chan and Woojin, Han then declares that Bang Chan is not as strong as you think.
야, 뱅첸, 너 별거 아니야? 넌 내일 내가 뗄 거야. 잘 생각해봐. 쿨타임. 우진이 어떻게 할 거야?
On the day of the game, they come together to try and take Woojin's tag as a team because he is the strongest player in the game, and they don't want to risk losing their tags to him.
저거 게임 종료 시 이름표야. 게임 종료 때까지 작은 이름표. 오케이, 그럼 우진이 형부터 누릅시다. 원래 이제 팀은 계속 바뀌는 거예요. 우진이 형부터 일단. 저기 사람. 필릭스네. 릭스야. 필릭스 감이야. 일로. 우리 팀. 야, 필릭스 어떡해.
Once they recruit Felix, they all go hunting for Woojin to go find him, acknowledging that if they work together, they can take out the best player in the house. As you can see, they are all trying to protect their tags because they don't trust each other to not take them. Eventually, Chan makes the first move and they all go to immobilize Woojin. The reason they have to do it as a team is because Woojin has multiple black belts in Kendo as well as Taekwondo, so he's a little slippery. Woojin doesn't fight back, he simply holds his tag trying to protect it while they hold his arms. Lino manages to separate the tag from Woojin's shirt, but in the end, Woojin was safe because he had a reflection card and anyone who took his tag would be out. This is the members coming to the realization that Woojin had now taken out the second member. He'd taken out Hyunjin earlier, and now Lino. The next person would be Felix.
뭐야?
카메라가 있는 거 보니까 뭔가가 있는데요? 우와! 나 진짜 좀 못했어. 우와! 반타. 우와!
우진이 살아있어. 작은 이름표 반사까지 있었어. 와, 이게 뭐야? 저 괴물이잖아. 야, 저건. 와, 이거 진짜 답 없다. 아니, 이거 그냥 자꾸 오면은 저 못 이길 것 같아요? 저는 자신 있어요. 오케이.
대결 신청한다.
와, 찬이 형 대 우진이 형. 야, 곰대 호랑이 누구일 것 같아? 호랑이. 일단은.
The members are discussing who they think will win between Woojin and Chan. Chan being the tiger, Woojin being the bear.
호랑이가 팔이 길거든. 지금 붙잖아. 붙으면 내 혹시 기회도 있으니까.
3파전이구만.
장빈 형도 만났어. 목이다. 기회를 주지. 도망갈 기회를 줄게.
내 쪽으로 오냐? 야! 왜 내 쪽으로 오냐고!
선배야, 우지 하면 내가 너 이기게 해줄게.
Here again, you see Chan negotiating with Changbin to try and get Changbin to face off with Ujin to take his tag, or to team up together to take his tag.
아, 다들 나한테 왜 이렇게 좋은 기회를 주는 거야? 죽겠네 진짜. 아, 망설이게 되잖아. 저를 믿어. 그냥 한 명만 딱 잡고 끝내시라. 오케이.
They leave out these clips so they can sell you a story, but as you can see, they are laughing together.
너무해 진짜.
둘이 시작했다 둘이. 우와, 찬이 형 진짜 빨라. 우진이 형 이겨요.
Here's Han rooting for Ujin, I assume because Chan is the one who had taken Han's tag while Ujin was taking Felix's tag. From there, Bang Chan pushes Ujin down and snatches his tag, while Changbin puts his hand behind Ujin's head to stop him from slamming it into the concrete. Chan pushing Ujin backwards into the concrete left a pretty significant bruise. Changbin, who initially was trying to help Chan get the tag off of Ujin, then recognizes this and goes to Chan and asks him, "Geez, what are you doing?" Stray Kids fans leave these clips out because they don't want people to know the full extent of what happened. Changbin then proceeds to say that was too mean, I am the winner. And the two of them decide to do a countdown to take off each other's tags at the same time. Changbin, however, had other plans. He goes to take Bang Chan's tag as they're doing the countdown, winning the game and then going to join the other 7 members standing at the corner. If there was malicious intent behind this whole exchange, then why would Changbin ask Chan, "Geez, what are you doing?" Changbin came out the victor and won the prize. I watched this whole video expecting to see some vicious beating. In the end, all I saw was a bunch of boys playing a game. The only person who ended up getting physically hurt in this game was Seungmin for unknown reasons. A few days later, they hopped on their plane to Australia, and Felix, Changbin, and Ujin were still roommates. Look at how Felix looks at Ujin.
자, 출발해볼까? 우리는
According to those Stray Kids fans, Felix hated Ujin, who was bullying him.
데저트 먹는
디저트 말고 데저트.
디저트잖아 그거.
릭스 영어 못하네. 릭스 형한테 영어 배울래?
그래 릭스 아닌데요?
And if you go back to the original comments from the video from when it first played back in the middle of 2019, you can see for yourself that nobody actually saw anything concerning or thought Ujin was a bully. They even made jokes about how good he was at the game. They thought it was funny. But after September of 2020 up until the present day, Stray Kids fans used this footage to try and prove that Ujin was a bully, and Bang Chan was the hero who had to come and put him in his place. They somehow believed that someone who had to fight to win 63 medals in Taekwondo is so fragile that he can't play a game competitively. And even when it's pointed out to these Stray Kids fans that Bang Chan couldn't have even known how and when Felix's name tag was taken because he wasn't there, they believe a multi-million-dollar company who have been managing idols for years wouldn't just pull him out of the game. No, they would stop the game, go find Bang Chan, show him the footage, tell everyone to continue the game, and then set it up so that Bang Chan could then beat up Ujin to put him in his place for bullying Felix. Anybody with a normal functioning sense of business would think this is absurd. But for some reason, K-pop stans and Stray Kids fans alike believe it to be true. There are many times when these boys have been in competition with each other. This is Seungmin and Lino. This is after Ujin has left, and they're both competing to get a shoe. In this video, Ujin faced backlash because Felix asked him or told him he was getting up from the table. This is a Korean custom, but this was presented as proof of bullying because apparently Felix looked scared. This was an hour-long live and they snipped this little 10-second bit, but let's look at more of it.
하루 종일 스키.
They all laugh because Ujin fumbled his words. Felix goes to comfort him. And when Ujin slaps his face, Felix mimics him. Then Hyunjin and Woojin go to play with Felix's hair. If anything, Felix is acting like he admires Woojin.
인사드리겠습니다. 있습니다. 하나, 둘, 스텝 아웃! 안녕하세요, Stray Kids입니다. 저희가 이렇게
In a lot of the videos that were presented as Ujin being a bully, they messed with the quality of the video so that you couldn't quite tell where they had gotten the footage from. Johnny's Coffee Mug, a Stray Kids fan, found the original video. Here it is.
Cameras. Right. Let me explain something else. Groups have positions, where the taller members have to be behind and the shorter members have to be in the front. If they all fit in the place, The taller members have to be on both sides and the shorter members in the middle. Woojin missed his position and went to the front because he thought they wouldn't fit in the place as a single row. Hyunjin pushed him to his right place because they fit. We also see that Seungmin did that to Felix. He was not pulling Felix away from Changbin, right? He was fixing the position. The formation was still not correct, and we see Seungmin putting Woojin in the right place. Seungmin and Hyunjin have to be at the last positions because they are the tallest members. Woojin was the third tallest member, so that's why he went to the side.
You can watch videos like this and many more at Johnny's Coffee Mugs YouTube page. In the end, Woojin would be accused of every ist in existence. Classist, racist, sexist, misogynist, and here's what they called racism.
저희 우리 필릭스가 드레드를 해도 안 된대요.
In this clip, they are doing a Q&A sponsored by Twitter. Woojin then reads a fan question out loud to Felix, asking if he would ever get locks or dread his hair. Felix says no. Woojin then says nope, pass. Sorry if I'm beginning to sound extremely sarcastic, but the lengths that people are willing to go to justify their inhumane abuse of another human being is ridiculous. That being said, in this clip, Woojin is accused of bullying Lino by trying to fix his jacket when he bends over and elbowing him in the eye by accident. According to these Stray Kids fans, this was a vicious planned attack. Now let's look at a similar incident around the same time between two current members of Stray Kids. When it's Woojin, it's seen as a purposeful, malicious act. When it's anybody else, it's recognized as an accident. Now let's go back to the first accusers who kicked off this entire plot against Kim Woojin. You remember Tyus? Well, Tyus was in Korea, and she actually went to a bar April 29th. She was also the first person to allude to Stray Kids and stays after the first accuser came forward. The time that Tyus had spent in South Korea was part of a foreign exchange program. She was there as a student. When K-pop stans and netizens started to investigate the claims, her name kept coming up a lot. And she came forward to declare that she has nothing to do with it. Said it was a complete coincidence that she had an Instagram picture at a bar on the same date that the second accuser had said they were at a bar and had met Woojin. She said that she was being linked to it because she had been to Korea, but that wasn't the case. She was being linked to it because she was the first person to allude to Woojin, and because she had been to Korea, and because she had taken a picture in a bar on the 29th. She spoke to a lot of Stray Kids fans not involved in this plot against Woojin, Woojin's fans, as well as netizens who were in on the investigation. Despite all of her posts being public, she threatened legal action, and she stated that 10X should contact her for clarification. She reiterated that she was not involved and called people sick for accusing her. Ironically, predictably, she was worried that her image would be damaged. Rafa took a different angle. She wanted people to believe that because they had created or invented all these victims, she said it's not even possible to make these things up. But Tyus' exchange program was through Soulbridge International School of Business. This is what their email address looks like. This is the email address that was used to create the first accuser's account. It belonged to A.T. Vakari. Vakari happens to be Tyus' last name. Once this information was presented to Tyus, she would then admit that she owned the account. But she said she had given it to Rafa, and that was a big mistake. She provided a text message exchange between her and the supposed alleged victim. She later advised that the accuser's name is Victoria, and gave up a username for a Twitter page saying that this was her page. The Twitter handle, SeesawSKZ. Now the way Twitter works, you can change your username as much as you want, but each username that you use will always be attached to the same account. And when you search SeesawSKZ, it used to be called All2Ts, and when you search through the archived tweets of the All2Ts account, you get Tyus Vakari. The digital footprint is important, because once you've put something on the internet, it's there forever, even if you delete it. So allegedly, Rafa wanted to get revenge against Woojin for leaving without saying why, and Tyus loaned her one of her 8 Twitter accounts in order to do so. And together, this GLOW team came up with the first accusation against Woojin. As for Rafa's sister Milena, her tune quickly changed. Before, when she had said, "You must believe the victim," now she said, "If you want me to apologize, you must ask everyone else who believed the story," putting the blame on the concerned netizens who thought this was a real victim they were helping. One of the worst motives of this whole thing is that some Stray Kids fans wanted to transfer the hate that Stray Kids had been receiving for their various scandals onto Woojin. They quickly got to work changing the 909 slogan to "Eight is Fate," commemorating the day they successfully made Woojin their fall guy, their patsy. In 2020, Stays also had a very negative reputation. Unsuspecting influencers were being used by K-pop stans to draw negative attention in order to get their promotions for their K-pop groups. Created a fake tweet from an influencer in order to downtalk Stray Kids so that people would then turn around and come to Stray Kids' defense. Throughout 2020, it seemed that they were building a very negative reputation and more people were becoming frustrated with them. I want you to take note of the fact that this person is stating that Stray Kids had been receiving hate since debut. Later, Stray Kids fans would change the narrative of their beginnings and state that they received hate because of Woojin leaving. This is not true. In my opinion, these Stray Kids fans positioned themselves as Woojin's victims to rehabilitate their image. Unfortunately for the Stray Kids fans who weren't involved in the plot against Woojin, they were damaged too. They were severely hurt by this. They thought that somebody that they loved and looked up to was a bad person and a deviant. Here they started to position Woojin versus Chan, Woojin the bad guy, Chan the good guy who tried to give us 9, and Woojin who didn't care about family. They spoke about the family and the dream and Stays, but this was supposed to be a case of sexual harassment. None of what they're saying makes sense in context of the accusations. Fandoms who had previously been at war with Stays had come forward to apologize because they had no idea what Stays had been going through. Again, all of it was a lie. Not the apology, the accusations. From here on out, Woojin became the perfect patsy, the perfect fall guy, a scapegoat. Anytime they were having problems, they'd just say Woojin did something. The Stray Kids fans who orchestrated this had successfully duped the K-pop community into apologizing to them by lying about sexual assault. Thereafter, anytime Woojin's new company was working round the clock to try and clear his name, they would post updates on the police investigation and the case. They used every update on the sexual assault allegations to promote the new comeback. Later, they would project all their actions onto Woojin and accuse him of promoting himself using their false allegations. Unsatisfied that their false accusations didn't completely destroy Woojin's support system, they then started going after Woojin's fans individually to force them to stop supporting him. This would be the start of them stalking him, checking every single one of his platforms daily. Since they had failed to force him out of the music industry, they were now going to force fans out of supporting him. And if he did not bend to their will, they would bully him. From here, Woojin moved forward, and this would be the last time he would acknowledge or address Stray Kids fans for the next 3 years. Moving forward, Woojin and his company then requested that the Metropolitan Seoul Police do a thorough investigation of them and the accusations. They had nothing to hide. The Seoul Cyber Police confirmed that the first accuser was a Brazilian national. All other accusations had been thoroughly proven to be a lie and required no further investigation. In the comments section of these Naver articles, Woojin's former classmates came forward to talk about his demeanor and personality. Here's the Google translated version, and because Google doesn't do a very good job of translating Korean, here's the actual translation. Usernames have been removed for their safety. Korean news media took a while to report on this case because this was not a thing in Korea. All of this went down on the western side of K-pop Twitter. If you read the quotes on that tweet, you'll find that some people were extremely upset to find out that he was innocent. On the other hand, some Stray Kids fans still needed him to be their scapegoat, so they needed to keep him public enemy number 1. And they started making videos to discourage people from supporting him, even though he was the victim. I won't support Woojin even after he was proven innocent. K-pop agencies, in most cases, almost never terminate their artist contract in the middle of promotions. I'm not sure why K-pop fans think they know what goes on internally at K-pop companies. This is not a determination that you can make. The problem with speculation is there is no way to tell if something happened to his family, to him, that made him need to leave urgency, that it was an extenuating circumstance that allowed termination of his contract. Their next point was that even if he begs JYP to terminate his contract because he wants to go solo and leave the company, JYP wouldn't let him, especially since he's the main vocalist of Stray Kids. Now, Stray Kids have 5 vocalists in total. Woojin was just the one with the most experience and the best technique. Additionally, assuming that he left to pursue a solo career is speculation. There was no reason given as to why he left beyond personal reasons. The third point is that you need to remember that JYP put a lot of money into his training and his debut. It's obvious that they want their money back, and that means they won't make him go solo elsewhere. In the 21st century, advocating for indentured servitude, once again, the reason for him leaving is unknown. JYP Entertainment have also stated that they do not collect trainee fees unless somebody breaks the rules and is removed from their contract. this was not the case for Woojin. Their next point was they said the reason why he left the group was because of severe personal reasons. I understand, because Hwall from the boys suffered an injury that made him unable to dance. Since he could not dance, there was no reason for him to be an idol, but in Woojin's case, he could still sing and dance, except nobody said anything about Woojin being injured. I'm not sure what one person's leaving has to do with another, but this point makes me very uncomfortable. And if you have to add filler words to a statement that was already made, I think even you recognize your point is ridiculous. Severe was never part of JYP Entertainment's statement. They said personal reasons, which are personal. Do you really think if he was a complete saint, they would have let him go to another company taking all the training they have given him, and when he hasn't even managed to pay his trainee debt? Every single job you will ever have is going to train you on the job, and anytime you leave, you're going to take that training with you. Additionally, is this person saying that every person who has ever left a K-pop group and wanted something different for themselves did something bad? Do I think that if he was a complete saint, they would have let him go to another company? Absolutely. If he had done something questionable, they would have blacklisted him, which they clearly didn't. I know that almost everywhere in the world, laws around sexual assaults are heavily skewed towards protecting the perpetrator. In terms of the law, often victims are left with nothing but shame. However, the media is a completely different story, and so is the general public. If there was a story to be told about Woojin, they would have dug it up. But there was just simply nothing. Woojin and his company had nothing to hide. They posted their credentials and even gave a tour of their fake company. Unfortunately, a lie will always spread further than the truth. So no matter what, Woojin was already branded a criminal, despite it being proven that he was innocent. However, he moved forward. Woojin then recorded multiple vlogs, which you can listen to on his channel, and spent this time reconnecting with fans and music. He posted multiple covers of popular songs. His Instagram was restored with its verification, and it seems his company took over most of the posting. He also opened a TikTok where he uploaded various trends and singing covers. The same people who demanded accountability from him and gave relevancy to anonymous accounts who had been accusing him with zero proof and a questionable timeline, despite having millions of people thinking they were sexually assaulting him and enjoying it, and the unprecedented amount of internet hate he was receiving for almost 6 months. People decided that Woojin's feelings were a lie, that he was faking being hurt by all of this, that he wasn't affected. They thought it was funny, entertaining. They cut themselves off from any information that contradicted their notions of him. The same people who claimed to be against abuse were all too happy to become the abuser. And in 2024, this live would become relevant again. You see, one of the members of Stray Kids, Hyunjin, had been facing bullying accusations since debut. Bullying is taken extremely seriously in Korea, and this would threaten to completely destroy his K-pop career. In 2021, Hyunjin ended up being put on hiatus due to these accusations. Stray Kids fans now in 2024 would say that back in 2021, Woojin had been liking hate posts about Hyunjin while he was going through this. In 2020, they had been selected to be part of a program called Kingdom. It would begin filming in 2021. During this, Hyunjin had been temporarily put on hiatus because in Korea, whether you are guilty or innocent, if there is a credible accusation against you, you cannot participate in idol activities. During a segment of the show, they showed Stray Kids some of their old music videos. In one of the segments, they cut out Hyunjin's part and they showed Woojin's part instead. This made some Stray Kids fans mad because Woojin had never been blacklisted. In 2024, they would accuse him of shading Hyunjin for being blacklisted when it's actually the opposite. As you can see, in 2024, the accusations had evolved. He was accused of mocking essay allegations, hurting Stray Kids, shading Hyunjin, grifting off of their hard-earned success, not sure how, doing shady shit like naming his fandom on his debut anniversary. We'll talk about that one in a minute. In this bottom tweet, I want you to notice how they infantilize the members of Stray Kids and admit to it, and they then adultify Woojin in order to make people comfortable with abusing him. Over the course of a year and 3 months, these Stray Kids fans had falsely accused him of sexual assault, harassed him, doxed him, stalked him, assassinated his character, attempted to sexually assault him, and much more. On March 25th, he took the steps to completely sever ties with the people who had done this to him, and he announced his fandom name.
I'm about to announce the name of the fandom. 바로 컵스입니다.
Every year, that date would remind him of the people who tried to cyberbully him to death and tried to sexually assault him. He now could celebrate something positive, something beautiful, the people who saved his life. In February of 2021, a rap that had been written by one of the rappers of the group when he was 13 surfaced. It included some inflammatory language and resulted in quite a bit of backlash from the K-pop community. This persisted for months, and Even though he did thoroughly apologize, a lot of people were quite hurt by it. This was causing a divide in the Stray Kids fandom. In June of 2021, Woojin's company dropped a documentary fully detailing how he was completely innocent. This served as the perfect backdrop for Stray Kids fans to then shift the focus from everything that was going on with the rapper onto Woojin, despite the fact that on the announcement it clearly stated that it was a documentary about ruining someone's life for fun. Woojin was accused of using the false accusation as a teaser image for his debut.
So, we're talking about Kim Woojin today, and how the man legit wants to go and joke about sexual assault for clout and fame.
I'm going to pause here real quick to let you know that this sole clip is the reason they say he was joking about sexual assault. I don't understand what part of this was a joke. Maybe it's because I'm not a Stray Kids fan, but this is what Stray Kids fans call him joking about sexual assault.
Like, how do you just joke about something that people can get triggered by? Sexual assault? That's not something you ha-ha about, even if it's fake or real. That's not okay. And yet, he still has fame? After joking about that? How? Like, you don't just go and joke about something like that. It's not funny. Like, how do you find it funny? Where in any of that is it funny? Because last time I checked, sexual assault isn't a good thing. A joke is for everyone to laugh at, not for people to hate him more. Last time I checked, I don't have anything against you, Cubs, but it's like, explain to me now how you can stand someone that's literally joking about sexual assault. Like, that's not funny. It's triggering for a lot of people. And then he's just gonna come out and joke about that. Did he think that was okay? Like, in his mindset, he was like, let's make a video about me having rumors about me sexually assaulting people, and then let's joke about it. Who does that? Like, explain that to me. Who? Why?
Maybe it's because I don't operate within the K-pop ecosystem, but I missed the joke. He's the victim in all this. Putting aside that Woojin isn't fluent enough in English to have made this video himself, these false allegations were created to make jokes at his expense. And when they were sharing a nude that they thought belonged to him, they were all too happy to laugh. But let's watch it together.
Kim Woojin. You're looking at the most professional artist in the world.
Oddly enough, that statement alone was enough to piss off Stray Kids fans. The company called him professional and said that most of all he was worried about his fans. Apparently that is extremely unprofessional and should never be said. I want you to pay attention in particular to this last paragraph, because their number one priority once again was themselves and the optics.
Graceful as a swan. What goes on in that mind of his? So, you get it now? Do you think Woojin can be all, yeah, it's not me, get lost, hey, this video shoot was so fun, hahaha? Could you have smiled so easily? Series of hates, malicious comments, unfathomable insults, stalking, and death threats. One after another. Just kept coming. So, just the night of it would be enough to traumatize you for the whole month, right? Imagine going through this nightmare every single day. It's not even a dream. Imagine you're living it. If the luck doesn't work to your favor, it could happen like it happened to Woojin.
I would just like to state that Woojin and his company were the victims in all this, and they can address it however they please. You can watch the full documentary on his channel, and here's the DKDK TV analysis of it.
Like, using that as a teaser image, I would say, it could be questionable, debatable.
I don't think it's
But at the same time, that post, it was fake.
It was
fake.
Nothing real.
And also, and
it
him,
was what he experienced.
It was that little, those sentences ruined his whole life. And I feel like he has definitely the right to use that.
Exactly. Okay, and people who are saying that he's making sexual harassment, like he's taking it lightly, bitch, you're the one that's taking sexual harassment lightly by believing in this random ass post. That person got away with it, right? No one's talking about that person.
That person ruined someone's life.
And that person is the one
he didn't get vindicated yet fully.
That person is the one that's taking sexual harassment lightly. That person is the one that made it a joke.
Exactly.
Not Woojin. Woojin went through this, you know.
And the thing I don't understand is people say like he's taking sexual assault harassment lightly, but the thing is, where is that?
Yeah,
it's non-existent. We can't talk about sexual harassment or violence here because it didn't even happen here.
Right.
You can watch their complete video on their YouTube channel. A common accusation against Woojin is that he does not respect sexual assault survivors because his company used the false accusation as the cover image for the documentary. They expected his company to defend him without showing the crime that was committed against him. A few of them, still hyper-fixated on this idea of him putting out music, assumed that the documentary, which stated it was a documentary right on the cover image, assumed it was a teaser for an album. Once again, still upset that they couldn't force people out of supporting him, they called them dumb because he was trying to profit off of their false allegations with a non-monetized documentary. Some directly accused him of using sexual assault as an aesthetic. The subject that they had plastered all over the internet with millions of tweets was apparently now too sensitive to talk about. Not all Stray Kids fans took this position. Some recognized that he was the victim in all this. Having complied with every demand from K-pop fans, Woojin and his company moved forward with his career. On July 8th, they released his pre-release single, Still Dream, a song dedicated to his fans describing how they'd carried him through such a dark time. It also served as his commitment to following his dreams. And on August 8th, he officially debuted with the declarative single, Ready Now. Like any true artist, Woojin spoke through his music. This 5-song EP takes you through a journey of pain, loss, suicidal ideation, loneliness, acceptance, healing, and finding true happiness. Despite the best efforts of his antis, Woojin was able to return to the thing he loves most, music. Even his song covers were well received. Toward the end of 2021, it was becoming clear that Woojin's ambitions extended beyond just singing. It was announced that he would participate in a web movie called 3/5 Period. Almost immediately, he started to receive backlash for it. For daring to appear in a movie with a 16-year-old, people assumed he'd be playing the love interest, once again calling his character into question based on their own imagination. Filming would go smoothly and Woojin would record 2 original soundtracks for the movie. But before all this, prior to the announcement of the movie, Woojin caught COVID-19. Stray Kids fans made sure to make their voices known, excited at the prospect of him dying from a deadly disease. I want you to imagine you leave a multi-million-dollar company, you walk away quietly, with no drama, just the clothes on your back, you do nothing to harm your former group, but for months, the fans stalk you and harass you. They falsely accuse you of sexual assault, they dox you, they then try and sexually assault you by spreading a nude, and even after you've cleared your name and you spent a year with extreme trauma, they then turn around and laugh that you caught a deadly disease and say you deserve it because you broke their parasocial fantasy, because you had the audacity to have free will and choose your own happiness. Since looking into this, I've seen Stray Kids fans say that they're not the ones behind the abuse of Kim Woojin. They say that it's just K-pop stans in general, that they want nothing to do with him and they've moved on. But you're about to see that that is not true, even in the year 2024. These are only a few of the comments in those quote tweets. The original tweet still exists in its entirety on the platform. You're welcome to navigate to Twitter to read through the quotes. Woojin continued to ignore the abuse and focused on his fans and his career. As you can see, with every single project he would have moving forward, he would be followed with hateful comments, and some K-pop stans unsure of why the industry didn't believe in their fantasies that they created in their own minds that he's a terrible person. As for Korean netizens, they were concerned with the visuals for the show because it was looking more J-pop than K-pop, and they don't like the representation of K-pop being incorrect. But even on Korean forums, they were tired of Stray Kids fans harassing Woojin. Woojin completed the filming of the show and kicked off his world tour from Brazil, which means he had spent the beginning half of 2022 preparing for his tour, learning his dance, his choreography, all of it, as well as learning his lines for the show. He did these things simultaneously. He also headlined a K-Expo in Brazil. A fan of the group who was supposed to perform with their dance troupe took to social media and stated they would be performing at the same event as Woojin, and they would take this opportunity to physically harm him. The Korean Cultural Center, a government agency, had to step in to beef up security for Woojin to stop this Stray Kids fan from being able to harm him. This would be their crowning achievement that they would use to get cheap clicks over the years as Stray Kids fans continued their hate campaign against Woojin and spread it far and wide. And if you look through this account's tweets, you'll notice that he is friends with a familiar person. Rafa, yes, the same Rafa who came together with her friends to falsely accuse Woojin in 2020 of sexual assault because they felt entitled to him. Now let's talk about how Stray Kids fans manipulate the conversation around Woojin. Oftentimes, they'll take things that he did, change the timeline and the narrative of when they happened in order to justify their attacks against him. One of those instances is in April of 2020, there was a trend in Korea to post places that you wanted to go because no one could travel due to the pandemic. Stray Kids fans now completely obscure the timeline of when this happened and make it seem as if he was dead serious about being on vacation, as some sort of alibi for the falsely alleged events of June 2020. Except he posted these pictures in April of 2020. When called out for lying, this user then attempted to state that they were referring to the bullying accusations. However, Woojin had posted this in 2020 April. The bullying accusations didn't arise until September 2020. There was absolutely no talk of him abusing members until then. They explicitly left the date out of the picture so they could misrepresent the information until they were called out, and then they stated the date. Besides all of the trauma that he had been facing during the pandemic because of the false allegations, Woojin has said explicitly that he does not like being cooped indoors, and the pandemic was particularly difficult because he is a person who likes to be outside, in nature. And because he wasn't able to travel freely, he partook in this trend with the hashtag #IWantToGo, because the point of the trend was to post yourself in places where you would be visiting if it weren't for the pandemic. Unfortunately for Woojin and his fans, they are forced into this one-sided relationship with two sides of the toxic side of Stray Kids fanbase. On one hand, there's the ones who think he belongs to them and that he never had a right to his own freedom, free will, and agency, and therefore he should be punished for walking away. And there's another side of the fandom who believes he belongs to them, he should still be in the group, and they are trying to force him back into the group. They also believe he secretly wants Stray Kids fans as his fans and he wants to be back in the group. This is pure projection, them voicing their desires. This other side is just as toxic because they obsessively go through Woojin's material looking for clips that they can edit together to make it seem as if he's obsessed with Stray Kids and their fans. For example, this video.
Woojin mentioning stay and I'm crying. Wait for it.
집에서 stay 하고 있어야 돼요.
As you know, Stay is the name of Stray Kids fandom. This person is trying to imply that Woojin is talking about them. But what did he actually say?
많이 궁금해하실 것 같은데 오늘은 그런 얘기도 하고 팬분들은 또 어떻게 지냈는지 그런 얘기들도 하고 그러면서 시간을 보내면 좋을 것 같습니다. 다들 그래도 집콕은 다 하고 계시죠? 집에서 스테이 하고 있어야 돼요.
Things like this then get translated into other languages, spread across the globe by Stray Kids fans as if it's Woojin who's obsessed with them, when in fact it's the other way around. As for the weekly program this person is referring to, Woojin's vlog where he reads fan letters, apparently he's not allowed to even read his fan letters to his own fans. Throughout the years, they have used manipulative clips and edits in order to make people believe that Woojin is some horrible, evil monster, while at the same time telling them to not engage with his content so that they don't ever run the risk of actually finding out that it's a lie. Here's another example. This Stray Kids fan is trying to imply that Jong-in, the youngest member, was terrified of Woojin. The caption reading frightened eyes. So I went to go watch the full video in the Two Kids Room episode with Woojin and Jong-in because at this point I realized that anything a Stray Kids fan tells me about Woojin is most likely a lie.
것 같아. 왜냐면 그때 예민했던 이유가 이렇게 무대를 만족스럽지 못하게 하고 내려.
This is the part they clipped as proof of his fear, where he was just simply listening.
오고
아 맞아요.
잘 못한 것 같아 이런 생각이 들면 좀 약간 자괴감이 든단 말이야.
맞아.
마이페이스 때부터 조금씩 나아진 것 같아.
진짜 최근에 있었던 거예요. 그 저번에 현진이 형이 무슨 따라갔다고 했잖아요.
At no point do Stray Kids fans ever let Woojin and Stray Kids be separate entities, because even when people who aren't fans of Woojin and aren't fans of Stray Kids praise Woojin's singing, they still bring up Stray Kids.
It's me, motherfucker, it's me. It's me, motherfucker, it's me.
As I said earlier, Woojin spent all of 2021 and 2022 completely ignoring Stray Kids fans' pursuit of him. He wrapped up filming on this K-drama and continued to promote his album normally, around the globe and in Korea, and defied everyone who tried to get people to believe that he had been blacklisted. For someone who had been defamed so thoroughly, his album did well. He went on to participate in Seoul Fashion Week as a representative for Ulkin. He also designed a brand of merch for Ulkin under the title Blue Wave because his favorite color is blue, while working on an undergraduate degree. As for Stray Kids fans, he remained the constant topic of conversation for them, some of them making it their entire personality to hate him, constantly bringing him up for absolutely no reason, constantly trying to provoke his fans into getting fights with them to give them attention, using him to gain clout. They would get mad at anybody praising his vocals, trying to convince people that he is now a bad singer suddenly. The same fandom who had come forward saying they were so traumatized and hurt by his departure because they loved him and cared about him were now doctoring Instagram posts to pretend Stray Kids had posted things that they hadn't, in an effort to make everyone believe that they always hated him, never wanted him in the group, and thought he was a terrible singer and added absolutely nothing to their vocal line, which completely contradicts the narrative that Stray Kids had to do all this extra work after he left, because if he added nothing to the group and it was easy to replace his vocals, then what was the issue? Anywhere Woojin would appear, Stray Kids fans would become enraged, even when, as two separate artists, they were performing on the same music show. They got mad. You're welcome to go read the quote tweets on the post. Once again, trying to find a way to incorporate Woojin into Stray Kids lore, they started to call him the Sound Monster, which is a fictional creature in the Stray Kids universe. From the moment Woojin left the group up until this present moment in time, Stray Kids fans look for any opportunity to link him and the group, getting upset at him for their own imagination. At the tail end of 2022, Stays had been facing some internal struggles within their fandom. During some interviews that Stray Kids had done, one member had been on the receiving end of a few jokes about his body size and his weight. This is important context to remember for later. Their obsession is consistent throughout the years, every single day looking for a reason to bring him up, to talk about him, to disparage his looks and his talents, like the angry, obsessive ex you cannot get rid of, constantly bringing him up unprovoked, adding him to conversations that had nothing to do with him. They give themselves access to victimhood by talking about how traumatic it was for them to watch a stranger leave a multi-million-dollar corporation. They talk about how standard procedures in K-pop, like removing ex-members from the Instagram of the group, is, only in Woojin's case, evidence of him being an awful person and having done something terrible. After his tour, Woojin's social media posts had slowed down. It was revealed on November 21st that he had been spending time recording vocals for a soundtrack for the #1 Netflix show in Korea at the time, Reborn Rich. This was posted by the producer for the show's soundtrack. That night, one of the members of Stray Kids had also mentioned he'd been watching the show. Later that evening, while looking for tickets for Stray Kids concert, Bangchan had this to say on his live.
Well, they used the old photo. Come on. Let's use the new photos, please. I mean, it's understandable. Some people might not know, but yeah.
Now this is what he was looking at and referencing. They had used the old photo of all 9 members instead of the current lineup. Stray Kids fans were so excited by this, they had now gotten a new reason to attack Woojin. This brought together a divided fandom that had already been arguing over the body-shaming issue. They spread this everywhere. What they didn't realize is that Bangchan was speaking to them. Bangchan constantly has told them that we are an 8-member group, we have 8 members. Another member, Felix, has consistently posted the hashtag 8 ever since February of 2020. However, Stays continue to find ways to attach Woojin to Stray Kids. They are including him in a negative way, but nonetheless making Stray Kids' entire legacy that once upon a time they had a 9th member who left them. Anytime Stray Kids say or do anything in reference to their past, they always think it's about Woojin or make it about Woojin. Once they realized that Bang Chan was speaking directly to his fans, asking his fans to move on from Woojin and to stop constantly making everything they do about Woojin. They went right back to doing the thing that Bang Chan had explicitly asked them not to do, posting photos of Stray Kids as 9. See, their attacks on Woojin has nothing to do with what Bang Chan wants. It's a convenient excuse to be able to twist his words and act as if Bang Chan is directing them to abuse Woojin, when in truth, Bang Chan, Woojin, Stray Kids have all moved on. Woojin's fans have moved on. Most of Stray Kids fandom has moved on, but a few million who are still stuck in the past, who are still obsessed with Woojin, who are still upset at Woojin because he dared to think of himself as a human being with his own goals, dreams, and wants, and not a therapy doll for other people, left one of the big 3 companies in Korea and dared to believe that he deserved to be happy on his terms. Stray Kids fans realizing now that that meant they had to move on from Woojin and stop using him for engagement, they decided to then change the narrative completely, with some stating that Woojin had requested to have his face blurred in some mysterious live, others stating that Bang Chan had requested that they censor Woojin's face. December of 2022, Woojin went live on Instagram to speak to his fans. During that live, his fans were asking him to sing different songs, some of which he didn't know.
Snowman. What's that? I don't know the song lyrics.
Some Stray Kids fans joined the live and kept insisting that he sings a song by Stray Kids called Christmas Evil, a song he didn't know.
Christmas Evil. What is Christmas Evil? I've never listened that.
The reason he's speaking slowly is because he's typing it into the computer to figure out what the song is.
I've never listened that. Santa, tell me, okay?
When he realized what was happening, he quickly moved on, and this made Stray Kids fans mad. Many of them immediately accused him of lying. The same people who said that he needs to move on from Stray Kids, that he can't get over Stray Kids, were angry that he didn't know a song of theirs. They took this to be the ultimate sign of disrespect. Fans of the group now accused him of lying, of not knowing the song. Now remember, I keep saying these Stray Kids fans for a reason, because not all Stray Kids fans are like this. A lot of them also moved on a long time ago, even before the other part of their fandom falsely accused Woojin of sexual assault. In 2023, now going on 4 years since Woojin left, these Stray Kids fans were still just as obsessed, trying to get their own fandom to attack them by saying that they were fans of Woojin and wanted him back in the group for fun. They make posts about how they want him back in the group and how he deserves better than them, falsely accusing him of sexual assault and abusing him for years. This is funny to them. Stay's posts about Woojin increased throughout 2023. Their obsession over him only became stronger. They would continue to harass Woojin's fans and harass the promoters for every announcement for Woojin's now extended tour in Asia. Due to some visa issues, Woojin wasn't able to complete some of his tour stops. However, because he had already planned to go to Asia, he did travel through Singapore and completed some radio show interviews. He then performed in Japan and traveled to India, determined to show up for his fan base. At the same time, Stray Kids had dropped a Japanese album. Their fans would use Woojin to drive traffic to the music video. At this point, it had been 3.5 years since he'd left the group, and their fans still refused to move on. In fact, new members of Stray Kids fandom would immediately become hyperfixated on Woojin, stalking him at every turn. If he wore a blue shirt on his birthday and did a live cooking, he was accused of copying a member of Stray Kids. If he did any popular trends on TikTok that Stray Kids also did, he was accused of copying Stray Kids. And as the years passed, they would add new accusations, now stating that he had shaded the members of Stray Kids at some point during some mysterious interview. And of course, the up to 15 dates in the year that are unavailable to him. Moving into May, Stray Kids had just come from Music Bank Paris, and during a live, Bang Chan commented to his fans that some younger members of K-pop groups had not followed Korean greeting protocol. Some Stray Kids fans took it upon themselves to figure out who.
If they don't reply back, it'd be like, what?
Okay, no, because I don't think we're talking about what Chan was talking about on his live enough. Like, he's addressed the disrespect that he's gotten from younger groups before on his Chan's Room. And I know that he's never going to name names and he's always going to give people the benefit of the doubt. But, I don't want to. So I say let's just break down this list and talk through who we think he's probably talking about. Starting off with Enhypen, we know they're safe. Like, we've been able to see them respect their seniors before in public. We know they're respectful, okay? Moving on, we have AB6. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry if you were a fan of them. AB6, okay? I looked up their ages, and one of them is quite literally Chan's age. So immediately, they're safe. They have elders in their group. And same thing with Gravity. They have 99 liners. So I trust that they give respect to somebody who is quite literally only 2 years older than them and within the same generation of K-pop. Next, we have NMIXX. They're literally at the same label, okay? And we know how much Lily loves Chan. So NMIXX is safe. So we have P1 Harmony. I trust Kiho enough as a leader to not let any of his members disrespect other idols. Like, he calls people out, just like Chan does. So you know what? I trust him, and I trust that they are respectful. Next, we have Mamamoo. I mean, it's not even a question. Moving on. They're fine. They are the seniors. I also am not even going to talk about the boys because they literally debuted before Stray Kids did. So, again, safe. I mean, that only leaves us with one group, right? I don't want any fandom coming for me, but we know what Chan said. It's also not the first time that something like this has happened to Chan. And we can probably assume that it's the same idols, but I'll leave it at that.
This sparked an all-out attack on IVE, specifically one member named Wonyoung, who was 18 at the time. The K-pop community quickly came to the defense of IVE, including Korean netizens. This also prompted some of them to bring back Chan's comments on Woojin and what that had sparked from Stray Kids fans. There was a call for JYP Entertainment to put an end to his weekly lives so that they could keep Stray Kids fans from using Chan's words to harm others. The backlash was so severe that Bangchan ended up having to issue an apology. This also happened just 2 weeks out from the next album release. Despite the backlash, luckily this did not affect Stray Kids' careers. They had their biggest album sales to date. Moving forward, in the month of June, it was announced that Woojin participated on the soundtrack for the #1 Korean show on Netflix, King the Land, a joint venture between Netflix and NPIO Entertainment, a former JYP Entertainment subsidiary. In the same month, HBO Max Brazil released the first trailer for Woojin's K-drama. According to producers, Woojin not only starred in the show but also helped to arrange the vocals for the original soundtrack. Stray Kids fans, as usual, were first on the scene and were openly declaring that they would spread fake news about insert racial slur in order to try and derail the show. At every chance they got, they spread every false accusation that they'd already created against him, even creating new ones. Once again, inserting Stray Kids in his business as a soloist, even though Stray Kids fans continuously accuse him and his fans of trying to link him in the group. They continuously bring up Stray Kids and the fantasy they created around their relationship in order to justify defaming him. I've seen many Stray Kids fans say that they just want Woojin to focus on his career, which he has been doing since the moment he decided to continue idol activities as a soloist. And as he's focusing on his solo career, Stray Kids fans make sure to be there for every announcement and every project to sabotage to remind people that he was once a member of Stray Kids, that he's extremely selfish for walking away alone from the second biggest entertainment company in South Korea. Normally I wouldn't share AO3 content outside of the site, however that's when it's an original work of fiction. This, however, is a retelling of the crime that they committed against Woojin as if he actually committed the crime. Not only that, but they take his trauma from possibly developing an eating disorder under JYP and give that trauma to the members of the group as if it was happening to them and Woojin was the one making it happen. This has been particularly perverse because Woojin has always been against the crash dieting culture in K-pop. He would encourage the members to put on muscle rather than be underweight.
넓고 싶은데 약간 애초에 체형 자체가 되게 적다 보니까 운동을 안 하면은 살이 빠지면은 딱 왜소한 게 티가 나. 근데 운동을 하면서 체형 자체를 계속 유지를 시키고 싶은데 그 힘들이 스케줄 하는 동안에.
아 근데 나는 솔직히 너가 옛날보다 살이 지금 좀 붙은 게 나은 것 같아.
뭐야? 적당히 붙었을 때.
약간 이미지적으로 달라 보여. 그때 너무 약간
말라서서.
응, 너무 말라가지고 제 옛날 사진 보다가 놀랬잖아.
나도.
제 뭐가 진짜 말라서
August 2023, Stray Kids were watching a compilation of some of their old stages. At this time, they asked to watch their Levanter stage, which was about a month and a half after Woojin left.
내린 건가? 아니. 가이드가 더 높고 아이뮤는 탑라인 때문에 낮췄어.
바람 보자.
바람 왔다, 바람.
바람 봐.
강아지. 야, 얼굴 왜 이렇게 부었어? 뭐야?
I had to remove the sound because the song does play in the background. However, you can read the editor's notes as the video plays.
그래, 좀 성숙해졌다, 다들. 뭔가 되게, 좀, 뭉클하다. 진짜 약간, 뭔가, 도끼 품고 했던 것 같은데? 맞아. 야, 우리 이때부터 시작이었다.
이제 시작이야.
멋있긴 하다.
변화가 진짜 크다.
갑자기 스키즈 같아, 지금.
Stray Kids fans took this to mean that Woojin had done something so destructive to them with his departure that it left them traumatized, failing to see that Woojin was there for whatever happened that made him lose confidence and want to leave during this era, something that he had to heal from, something that took months for him to heal from. Evidenced by the fact that they had been watching Woojin on screen the entire time up until Levanter and had no problem seeing him on screen. For God's Menu they had drastically changed their sound, and here they are declaring that suddenly they feel like SKZ. This was 2 albums after Woojin left. During this live they had stated that Stray Kids' beginning was District 9. Later, Bangchan changed it to say District 9 to Levanter. Stray Kids fans took this to mean that Levanter was their start because they started as 8. This is not what Bangchan is saying. Bangchan is saying their start was District 9 to Levanter, an era, a period of time. Then changing it later, District 9 Levanter to God's Menu is their beginning, an era, a period of time. This is a sentiment that they've echoed throughout their career. As you can see from this Talker episode, they say the same thing here, from the song that made the beginning of Stray Kids to the song that made Stray Kids of today. Now, it's a longer sentiment. You're welcome to go watch it on the Talker episode. That in it, they go through the entire period of their beginnings. Saying they don't consider themselves a group until Woojin left is so disrespectful to all of the things that they had to do as a team in order to debut in the first place. And it's much worse doing all that just to justify abusing Woojin. During that live, they also talked about the difficulties of their last album and how much work it was and how they were losing their love of what they do. In this screenshot, you can see the clear difference between a fan of Stray Kids whose priority is Stray Kids and a fan of Stray Kids whose priority is harming or hating Woojin. Even though a lot of Stray Kids fans spent the month of June trying to get as much disinformation about Woojin as possible in order to negatively sway public opinion, the K-drama still did pretty well. Overall, it was the second most watched show on HBO Max Brazil in 2023, and it actually reached a peak of number 1. He also released his album in August of 2023. At the tail end of his album promotions, he also began his starring role playing dual characters, the Anderson twins, in an adaptation of Sherlock Holmes. At one point in September, he was juggling all 3, going to a festival while also starring in a musical while also promoting his album. In December, Woojin's agency announced that he had tour dates scheduled for early 2024. Once again, Stray Kids fans were early on the scene, angry that Woojin dared to defy them by still continuing his career despite their campaign to destroy his support system. There were so many comments that I didn't have space to include them all. You're welcome to go to the announcement. It's still on My Music Tastes Twitter and read through them. And they get particularly upset if the post is about Woojin's career, if he's just moving forward in his career and ignoring them. Especially so if it means Woojin gets to see his fans live and in person, or if Woojin's fans get to interact with him live and in person. This makes them the most angry. It's as if they're in competition with each other to see who can leave the most vile comment. During this time, Woojin's company had been bought by a larger company, SM Entertainment. It's unclear if the tour was cancelled due to this acquisition or due to the harassment of the venues and promoters by Stray Kids fans. However, they took credit. I suggest reading the comments on this post because they were very happy about destroying this opportunity for Woojin's fans to see him. 2024 started exactly the same as all the other years, Stray Kids fans obsessing over Woojin's reason for leaving the group, once again putting words in his mouth and presenting things that he never said as if they are truth. On his very first post for the year, it was flooded with Stray Kids fans wanting to make their presence known and trying to bully him off of Instagram. Same people who continue to say 8 is fate can't seem to let go of the former 9th member. And when he becomes the topic of conversation on Twitter, Stray Kids fans, the same ones who claim that he's the one who hasn't moved on, can't move on. Because they don't understand how royalties work, so therefore Woojin must have done something because Stray Kids re-recorded their songs as an 8-member group. Everything Stray Kids do as an 8-member group is made about Woojin. Anything that happens in pop culture in general is made about Woojin. Meg Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj fighting on Twitter, they'll find a way to be disgusting towards Woojin, disparaging his looks for clout so they can gain followers from other stays. Same ones who continue to say it is fate, still wanting them to be 9 just with someone else. When Woojin's fans make a very common joke, Stray Kids fans come together to harass them to try and pretend as if Woojin's fans are somehow a danger to them and Stray Kids, as if it's not the other way round. Woojin's fans had had enough. After years of keeping meticulous notes of the detailed harassment and defamation of Woojin, his fans laid out a step-by-step account of how Stray Kids fans executed that defamation, proving that this was a planned, coordinated attack against Woojin. Despite all that, Woojin had just tried to move forward with his life, and so did his fans. But Stray Kids fans, proud of their achievement of getting away with lying about rape and helping to catapult their favorite group to new heights using those allegations that they created, they proudly declare that they will do it again too if necessary, once again accusing Woojin of doing the very thing that they did, using their sexual assault allegations to promote something. This story that they created gives them access to victimhood, and it helps them build their following. They use him and abuse him for clout, treating him as if he is less than human because he dared to do something that most idols won't do: walk away from a big 3 company, from guaranteed promotion, guaranteed protection, guaranteed fame. Back in September of 2023, it was reported that Woojin's label 10X Entertainment had been bought by a larger company, SM Entertainment, and would be absorbed into their subsidiary label, Custom Made. When Stray Kids fans found out, they tried to shame Woojin that he wasn't a part of the real SM Entertainment but just a subsidiary, because this went against their narrative that Woojin was somehow a pariah in the K-pop industry, because this move is unprecedented. Having an idol who debuted under a big 3 company being signed by another big 3 company is almost unheard of in K-pop. This speaks volumes to Woojin's standing in the industry, that he's seen as a reliable, hardworking, trustworthy artist, all contradictions of what Stray Kids fans are trying to get people to believe. After their initial extremely inflammatory title that got Woojin attacked by Stray Kids fans, once again calling him a flop because they successfully managed to damage his career by lying about sexual assaults, having Stray Kids fans vow that they will do whatever it takes to make sure that he never sees success, because if they can't have him, no one can. Koreaboo, a fan-run site, then amended the title and reposted it 7 days later, with a lot of their writers being Stray Kids fans. They know exactly what those titles will do and how to use their own fan base to get clicks and views, and it doesn't matter if they have to throw Woojin under the bus to do it. Keeping in mind that anytime Woojin or his company announced any plans for his career, whether it was to launch a new album or to advise of a new acting project, Stray Kids fans were first to the scene to defame him and try and get people to not support the project. They camp out in his TikTok comments telling him that Stray Kids are better than him. They say he has 100 defects, and anybody who is new to him, asking questions, wanting to get to know him, is quickly told he's a sexual harasser by Stray Kids fans who are fully aware they are lying. They put him in competition against Stray Kids, wanting Stray Kids to win an award in front of him to see his reaction. Anytime Stray Kids achieve something, their first thought is, I wonder if Woojin knows about this, he must be so mad. They say they're not obsessed with him, but I think it's clear that they are. And if a journalist who doesn't know the group Googles them and puts his name as a member of the group, they get mad at him as if he had something to do with it. When Google doesn't update music credits correctly, they get upset with him again. They get angry if a music store puts his albums next to Stray Kids albums. They use other artists' triumphs and hardships in order to reframe the story of Stray Kids and make a connection. They attempt to insult him by saying that he has autism and Down syndrome. One Stray Kids fan even created a fake publication page. My guess is they believe if they can get more people to believe he has some sort of disability, they'll be more comfortable helping them abuse him. At this point, Kim Woojin's company decided to try a different approach. They attempted to appease his abusers, which mostly consists of Stray Kids fans, by having him apologize publicly for leaving the group, several times for walking away from a multi-million-dollar company, the second largest entertainment company in all of Korea. This enraged Stray Kids fans. They were angry. They accused him of trying to farm sympathy by apologizing publicly. After years of abusing him, they once again positioned themselves as victims, stating that no apology from him will ever undo the harm he caused for walking away from the second largest group and the second largest entertainment company in Korea. Just so you understand how little sense people like this make, let's go through one of their complaints. For example, the first point they make here is that he should have put them through a lengthy court battle, which means the tour would have been postponed or cancelled altogether because they would have been in court. I don't know what they mean by rewrite Clay Levanter because the album already existed in its entirety before he left the group. They would have likely just needed to re-record his maybe 1 minute of lines across the entire album. You'll notice in the second part how they completely disregard their abuse of him since he was in the group. After he left the group, when he was doing his own thing solo, they have been stalking and following him for years. They are so deep in their delusion that they believe Woojin's fans are also fans of Stray Kids and somehow want them all to be nine together, when it's Stray Kids fans who stalk Woojin and Woojin's fans. They make excuses for their stalking because articles write him as a former member of Stray Kids, as if that doesn't happen to every single idol who was once in a group. As for his video, mention of the team Stray Kids was a very short part of that video and was done to identify his abusers, their fans. During the time that Stray Kids fans were falsely accusing him of sexual assault, there were many disparaging articles written about him from fan-run blogs. If his company can't take those down, what makes you think they can take down articles referring to him as a former member of Stray Kids? Publications know that that is going to lead to clicks. That has nothing to do with him. They do it for themselves. I have spoken to many of Woojin's fans, and they don't want anything to do with Stray Kids or Stray Kids fan base. Woojin's fans have tried to do everything to distance themselves from Stray Kids fans. Nobody wants Stray Kids fans to support Woojin. What Woojin's fans want is for them to sever this tie, this parasocial, forced, one-sided relationship with the group and with them. There is no greater testament to that than Stray Kids fans consistently showing up in the comment sections of Woojin's socials or anybody that posts him to mention Stray Kids and how he was once a member. These same people who have doxed him, falsely accused him of sexual assault, harmed him, abused his fans, all because he walked away from a situation where he was unhappy, say that he should have stayed unhappy to satisfy them, and because he didn't, he is selfish and self-centered. This particular Stray Kids fan has formed their opinion solely based on not so carefully curated lies from Stray Kids fans presented with no or falsified evidence. They are angry with him for stating that he was young and that he considered his situation first, which you should. If you are unhappy, it is not your duty to remain unhappy so that others aren't temporarily inconvenienced. You have to make sure to put the mask on yourself before you can help others. I want you to remember that what they mean by if he didn't left, he could taste the sweetness of fame as well, is that if he didn't leave, they wouldn't have falsely accused him of sexual assault and bullying. They wouldn't have abused anyone who supported him. They wouldn't have decimated his support system. He would have also been able to have a career free of defamation, but he was only allowed to have that if he had stayed a member of Stray Kids. And because he didn't want to be a member of the group, that makes him selfish for not living his life according to their wants. They wanted him to remain in the group. As long as he was there, it didn't matter if he was miserable, as long as he was there. They said that the others were younger than him, as if that has any bearing on his own choice or experiences. They say that they are over him leaving the group, but they are still so upset with him for leaving the group, for leaving them. They accuse him of being responsible for the hate that Stray Kids had been receiving, as if it had anything to do with him. They make a fuss about Stray Kids re-recording his lines. They use it as evidence that he's a horrible person while completely disregarding royalties. At the same time, they say they cheered when he left and they never liked him in the first place. According to them, they never liked him in the first place. They thought he was boring and they thought he was ugly, but he should have stayed to satisfy them. And because he didn't, that makes him selfish. But when it's convenient, Stray Kids fans say, no, we never hated him. We always loved him. We loved him until he was accused of sexual assault. But it was them who falsified the claims of sexual assault. So if they loved him so much, then why did they falsely accuse him of sexual assault in the first place? They go on to then call him a narcissist because when they falsely accused him of sexual assault, his company, instead of just dropping him, knew he was innocent, and therefore they defended him and called him handsome and extremely professional. And again, Stray Kids fans say that makes him a narcissist, that his company stood up for him. They also accuse him of not being able to keep Stray Kids' name out of his mouth, even though they're the ones who continue to link him to the group, even ratioing a Stray Kids post about Stray Kids being 8 in order to talk about Woojin, the former 9th member. One of their fellow Stray Kids fans talked about Stray Kids' glow up from their beginnings to now Another Stray Kids fan decided that no, the most important part about this picture is that Woojin isn't there. They don't even see their own actions as selfish, that Stray Kids fans are saying to Woojin that even though they didn't like him, they ignored him and they treated him like he wasn't a real member of the group. He should have stayed to satisfy them. They get mad at Stray Kids fans who remember the truth and who still think of him fondly. And once again, when Bangchan was online speaking to his fans, Stray Kids fans decided that Bangchan had been online searching information about Woojin so he could respond to Woojin's post, once again implicating Chan in their cyberbullying and abuse of Woojin, telling the world that Chan is using his platform and using his fans to abuse somebody else. Once again, this is not the case. Stays had been copying a trend that they had seen from BTS's fans, something they do every year pretending that Bangtan is debuting. Chan was responding to Stray Kids making the same joke about how there's this new group that's about to debut, can everyone please support them? This was happening up until midnight in Korea, to which Chan responded, April Fool's is over. Stray Kids fans excited that they finally had something new that they could use to try and justify their abuse of Woojin, quickly took to Twitter to disparage his looks, doubling down on their verbal abuse of this man. They call him evil for walking away in the least messy way possible from a K-pop group, declaring that they can see through his actions, once again acting as if they are the injured party. As for Woojin, he seems to have always kept the same stance, that he will continue to spread positivity. He does not spend his time trying to harm the people who harmed him. Instead, he will continue to focus on making music that talks about the human experience. The next day, Woojin and his company released a declarative video that he was moving on from his abusers, that he was no longer letting his tormentors dictate his life. The original video of Woojin apologizing to Stray Kids publicly for walking away from a multi-million-dollar corporation quietly came out on April 1st, Easter Monday, a time for renewal, to leave the bad behind and start afresh. In going with that theme, the video that was released April 2nd was called Rebirth. The visuals represent a person who has been silenced and trying to break free from it. Let's watch it together. There are many symbols in this video, most notably 2 replica sculptures of work by Salvatore Dali. He is seen smashing the statue symbolizing silence. Stray Kids fans believe that everybody is allowed to speak on Woojin's feelings, thoughts, motivations, and experiences. Everyone except Woojin, that is. The second replica sculpture is called Resignation. He is seen smashing this because he's no longer willing to be silent. This is his declaration that he does not have to accept the undesirable outcome of them lying about him, lying about sexual assault, lying about bullying, lying about every aspect of his time and departure from Stray Kids, as well as lying about who he is as a person. Woojin is no longer willing to accept that they are just going to continue lying about him forever. In the end, he's walking out of the darkness and coming into the light. It's a strong visual statement about taking your power back from your abusers. This is how his company presented the visual essay. And this verified account, knowing that it would attract Stray Kids fans, represented it as a trailer. When Woojin's company started posting teasers for the album on April 3rd called I Like the Way, once again the chart account incorrectly labeled the comeback. The same K-pop chart never actually posted the release of the song or the correct album name, but they were quick to post about the first day's streams for the song. Over the years, Korean netizens have taken to the KOO, South Korea's biggest online K-pop community, to comment on the situation between Stray Kids fans and Woojin, and these are their comments on Woojin's apology. Please keep in mind the original comments were in Korean, translated by Google. Pause to read. Since 2020, some Stray Kids fans have worked systematically to undermine the relationship between Woojin and Stray Kids when they were 9 members. Some of them insisting that the members always hated Woojin and they were uncomfortable around him and didn't want to be near him. They also insist that Woojin the entire time resented them and didn't like the members, especially Bangchan, who Stray Kids fans insist that Woojin called a bad leader. They call his calm, quiet disposition weird and say that he never quite fit in with the rest. They say other idol groups who lost a member continue to show the world that they remember them fondly, except Stray Kids. So let's examine that. Let's start with Woojin's representative animal. Every K-pop idol has a representative animal. When you debut, it is assigned to you. For some idols, they are so tied to their representative animal that that's all people call them. Woojin's representative animal is a bear. And all throughout his time with Stray Kids, and even after Stray Kids, up until this present moment, he has been related to that symbol, the bear. In one of their last group lives, October 9th, 2019, you can see Changbin eating something, and he says he's eating Woojin. He's eating a gummy bear. When asked to draw Woojin, they always draw bears, and even his official playlist when he was a member of Stray Kids is called Teddy Bear Woojin's Playlist. Most of the members described him as a bear, and even the youngest had him saved in his phone as Bear. Everywhere you turn, they refer to him as Bear. He was the only connection between the group and the bear symbol. So if the group was so traumatized by him, then why would they be seen constantly with bears? I'm not sure why it matters if they're still friends. Friendships break up, people leave, people come, people go. This is how life works. Everybody walks their own path, but for some reason, Stray Kids fans believe they have the right to meddle and interfere, and they call their interference fate. Going back to their fan meeting from October 9th, 2019, 19 days before Woojin would leave the group, Changbin was assigned to Woojin, and he drew multiple bears, chicken, perfume, and a song by Paul Kim called Me After You. This is a song that they strongly associate to Woojin.
곰 너를 만나 뭐야 저거? 너를 만나.
A song that the three vocalists of the group at the time covered in June of 2019.
너를 만난 그 이후로.
A song that he sang and dedicated to the youngest member of the group.
정인 만나 참 행복했어 나 이토록 사랑할 수 있었던 건
A song that he's covered many times on his V-Live.
영원하고 싶다고 너를 바라보다 생각했어 너를 만나.
Now, according to Stray Kids fans, Woojin traumatized Stray Kids so much that they've tried everything to erase him as much as possible. But here they are covering the song that they say they associate with him.
너를 만나 참 행복했어 나 이토록 사랑할 수 있었던 건.
To be quite honest, it is of no concern to me whether Woojin and Stray Kids still remain close or friends to this day, because no matter how much you think you know about them, they are strangers to all of us. However, if I hated someone, if someone traumatized me so deeply and so thoroughly, I probably wouldn't continue to wear a garment of clothing that I declared to the world they gave me. I would probably refrain from wearing the matching jewelry I had with that person. I also certainly wouldn't, accidentally or on purpose, make references to my ex-member's music video in my teaser. We can call them coincidences, but the similarities are noticeable. Each person can decide for themselves whether they see the similarities or not, but I don't really believe in coincidences. I was sent a copy of photos of Stray Kids fan kits, and I noticed something interesting. Doing research for this video, I had gone through a lot of the Two Kids Room episodes and made notes. Here, Hyunjin and Woojin are discussing how Hyunjin used to spend time at Woojin's place when they were trainees. They had a particular name that they called Woojin's house. They called it the Hideout. As you can see, it's Woojin that calls it that. The Hideout is his house. When I was sent pictures of Stray Kids fan kits, a few things caught my eye. Once again, to reiterate, Woojin's symbol is a bear. His fans' symbol is a bear too, because his fandom name is Cubs. So I did find it curious that Stray Kids would use a bear to symbolize their fans on their badge. And the badges are bear and home. And on their 4th generation fan kit, they explicitly call the home their hideout. Since Stray Kids fans are convinced that Stray Kids are directing them to abuse Woojin, you'd think they would avoid these kinds of coincidences. It would seem that Stray Kids fans are also just as obsessed with Woojin's fans as they are with Woojin. I want you to note the caption on this TikTok. This Stray Kids fan is fully aware that they are lying, which is why they turned off their comments, because people were calling them out for it, asking them why they were explicitly lying about serious topics like sexual assault to try and provoke a reaction out of Woojin's fans. Some Stray Kids fans pretend to want to put an end to the lies surrounding Woojin until you read their captions in their videos. The difference between their caption and the comments in the video are very telling. Stray Kids fans' reaction to bullying Woojin so relentlessly that he had to come forward and apologize for the third time publicly for something he should have never had to apologize publicly for was vicious, once again accusing him of not knowing any song because he didn't know a song. They say he's obsessed with the group, but when it's proved he doesn't know something about the group, they say he's lying, and that's disrespectful. They once again accuse him of shading Hyunjin, never seen any proof of this. They make judgments of his character without showing proof of him doing these things. They demanded another public apology but got mad that he apologized publicly. They once again bring up how they falsely accused him of sexual assault without mentioning that part, but then lie and say that he promoted himself using their allegations. And once again lie and exaggerate about Stray Kids refilming music videos and redoing albums. Interestingly enough, there are YouTube videos for the making of the video as well as the choreography, but they have very low views. They once again are angry at the fact that Woojin named his fandom, the people who saved his life, to replace the day that he was introduced to his abusers. That was a time where he almost didn't survive, and it was caused by these people. They are angry with him because they believe that he was the one to choose the date he would be allowed to leave and not the company, who allowed him to leave a month before a comeback. Bang Chan received little to no backlash for not being able to keep Stray Kids as 9. He received backlash for cultural appropriation. As you can see, this is a Stray Kids fan account. Some even go as far as to pretend to be fans of Woojin's so they can interact with Woojin's fans, fully admitting that they not only are obsessed with Woojin but that they hyperfixate on him and his fans. Ever since Woojin left the group, some Stray Kids fans, now at an increasing number, almost all, accuse him of trying to use the group for clout, including saying that he would go live when Stray Kids would go live. He went live only twice in 2020, and both times he announced it far in advance. This was months before Stray Kids fans would falsely accuse him of sexual assault, so he trended worldwide. Stray Kids fans are so consumed by him and so obsessed with him that even when his fans commission a digital billboard for him and somebody accidentally posts it in their own video unrelated to K-pop, they gather together to express their outrage. You may be thinking to yourself, well, this is just kids, but it's truly not. Their ages range from about 15 to 40. And even a K-pop store like this one, which explicitly states that they will be standing in solidarity with Woojin's abusers, stays in order to help them discriminate against him and cyberbully him. This was long after he was proven innocent, but then would that have mattered considering they carry the albums of a convicted rapist? I don't know what the legalities of this are, but what I can tell you is this sets a horrible precedent to say that they will stand in solidarity with cyberbullies. In September of 2023, it was revealed by Korean media that a member of NCT had been involved in a crime related to sexual assault. As it is still an ongoing case, I will use the term allegedly moving forward. While K-pop fans were discussing how devastating this is, Stray Kids fans were trying to find a way to make it about Woojin and themselves.
No, actually, let's talk about Woojin. Woojin was a member of Stray Kids when they debuted. They were a 9-member group. And that was in 2018, and in 2019, he left the group due to claims of sexual assault and bullying. Now, I bring him up for 2 different reasons. One, it just further proves my point that you don't know what you don't know, because Bang Chan chose each member of Stray Kids to debut with him. He created Stray Kids. Do you think he would have picked someone with a tendency for sexual assault or bullying? Absolutely not. Who in their right mind would do that? What Bang Chan perceived from Woojin was just his persona on the outside, and what we perceive of these K-pop idols that we don't even know.
I'm going to pause here because I want you to understand this person saw a real sexual assault case with a real survivor, and she thought to herself, how do I use this to praise Bang Chan and vilify Woojin? She's stating, "We don't know these idols, but she knows that Bangchan is a good guy and Woojin is a bad guy, even though she doesn't even have the details of his departure correct."
In person, that we only knew them through a screen, might be all an act. Again, do I think any of the current Stray Kids members would ever do something like that? No. But the chance is never 0%. Second thing, what we shouldn't be doing is comparing Tae-il to Woojin, and then people are comparing it to Hyunjin's bullying scandal as well. Hyunjin's was a bullying scandal. It was basically proven false, but he still apologized anyways to the person who thought he was bullied. And you know what? Maybe it's true. But he went on hiatus and he came back. Tae committed a sexual crime and is under investigation by the police. That is a different story. Tae was immediately kicked out of the group.
I cut out 2 parts here where she does talk about another idol. In the interest of not spreading more misinformation, I decided to take them out because they're not relevant to the topic.
Or because they're fairly certain it's true and they just don't want to be associated with him anymore. The people that are out here defending him, like, oh, let's not make any assumptions and the police is done with their... No! I'm gonna think he's guilty until the police tells me he's not, because think about the victim. Think about if you were in her shoes. If I was sexually assaulted by a famous rich K-pop star that's loved by all for years, and then I find out that his crimes come to light and I start to feel some relief and solace, and then fans are defending him, no, absolutely not. So yeah, I think Tae was kicked out of NCT because I think he actually did it. I will wait to hear from the police. And please do not compare him to Hyunjin's bullying scandal where he went on hiatus for like 3 months. Those are 2 completely separate entities. And again, you don't know who you know sometimes. Example 1, Bangchan and Woojin.
Once again, don't compare it to Hyunjin because it's disrespectful, but do compare it to Woojin, who himself is a victim, but I want you to believe is a predator. And as usual, putting Bangchan and Woojin against each other, Bangchan being the good guy, the savior, and Woojin being the bad guy, as they have done since Woojin left Stray Kids, and they decided that they were going to get revenge against him by any means necessary, including using every single scandal that happens in K-pop, the Burning Sun scandal, the Idol Itaewon scandal, and now a sexual assault case with an NCT member. Many people entered her comment section and told her that she was blatantly lying about Woojin and using a real sexual assault survivor for this agenda. She just deleted the comments. She then made a follow-up video saying that she had made some mistakes, that he had been investigated, but it's not clear if he's innocent or not, which is another lie. This Stray Kids fan was quick to add him to a collage with different idols involved in scandals to say he is the face of evil along with the other 4. So who is the real Woojin? That's something that I wanted to know, because there's absolutely no evidence of him actually being a bad person, unless you consider walking away from $1 million contract an evil act. As you already know, Woojin started his journey into being a musician at a very young age. When Woojin was young, he heard a song by K-pop group EXO, and it made him want to be a singer. From there, he started working so he could pay for guitar lessons. He dedicated all his time to his studies and his pursuits as a musician. He enrolled in a music school for high school called EST Music Academy. From there, he auditioned at several music companies, getting into almost all of them, picking Fantasio to start. He was then accepted to SM Entertainment, one of the big 3 music companies and home of K-pop group EXO. There he trained with K-pop group NCT. He didn't make the lineup for the unit that was debuting at the time, which profoundly affected him as it disappointed his mom. He was then recruited to JYP Entertainment to become a trainee under their new Ambitious Boys project, which eventually became the K-pop group Stray Kids. He worked hard to make sure to execute his own duties while also taking on the additional duties of helping with vocal training. After debut, while making sure to not neglect his duties as a vocalist, he put extra effort into his dancing. Ironically, many Stray Kids fans say now that they thought that he never fit into the group. They say he was weird, but when you ask them to explain, they describe his behavior as quiet and unemotional. A lot of them saying the only thing they knew about him is that he liked chicken. All of them absolutely refusing to acknowledge that the reason he may have not come out of his shell is because he was unhappy and feeling unfulfilled. In his Two Kids Room episode with the dance leader Lino, Woojin expressed that his parents were happier about his debut than he was, that he had worked hard because he had disappointed them before when he hadn't debuted.
부모님이 진짜 좋아하셨지. 나는 부모님이 나보다 더 좋아하셨어.
우리 엄마도.
그냥 주변에도 많이 이렇게 막 말씀하시고. 근데 난 사실 내가 좋았던 것보다 부모님이 더 좋아해 주셔서 나도 좋았어. 왜냐면 그 전에 한번 내가 어머니를 한번 실망시켜드린 적이 있기 때문에 이런 일 때문에 이런 일 쪽으로라고 해야 되나? 연습생 시절을 갔다가 결국 데뷔를 못했잖아. 그것 때문에 사실 죄송한 마음이 나는 많이 있었거든. 어머니한테. 스트레이키즈로 데뷔하기 전에 방송하고 연습할 때도 그런 생각 많이 했어. 정말 어머니 자랑스러운 아들이 되고 싶다 이런 거. 그래서 뭔가 되게 힘들 때 있으면 어머니 생각도 하면서 더 열심히 했던 것 같은 느낌.
He spent so much of his teenage years working solely towards the goal of becoming a musician. I don't know if he ever really stopped to think about what that would look like and what he really wanted out of it. And now that he had left an environment where he was feeling unfulfilled, despite all of the challenges he'd been through because of Stray Kids fans, the joy he's experiencing in creating and performing his own art, the joy of being seen and understood by your support system, is clear to see in everything he does. From a man who once never spoke about himself to the point where those fans claimed to not know anything about him but the fact that he liked chicken, he's now able to show his real fans his full personality. He's now able to share with the people he trusts his happiness, his sadness, his challenges and his triumphs. As for his time in the group and how the members felt about him while he was a member of the group, they had nothing but nice, kind things to say about him.
네. 듬직하기 때문에 저도 듬직해지고 싶은, 또 아니 목소리도 굉장히 좋기 때문에 저도 저런 목소리를 가지고 노래를 해보면 어떨까 싶어서 우진 형이 되고 싶습니다.
Wow.
Okay.
So lovely to know that you guys are a lot of charming.
Oh yeah. We love each other.
The current relationship between Woojin and Stray Kids is something only all 9 of them know about. Though I have to wonder if Stray Kids fans insist that in 2020 March, Bang Chan was speaking about Woojin 5 months after he departed from Stray Kids to tell everyone that Woojin was unreliable and kept making mistakes and was irresponsible. For the 3 years they all worked together from early 2017 to end of 2019, he was constantly called responsible, reliable, hardworking, a good older brother, there for everyone, mature. But 5 months after he leaves, he's irresponsible and only ever thinks about himself? Something's not adding up. So who and what was Bang Chan talking about? Well, you'll have to ask him. You have the right to ask for clarification. What you don't have the right to do is abuse and harass somebody based on the assumption you made because somebody else said something cryptically. And I want to make this abundantly clear. Absolutely nothing will ever justify lying about sexual assault and bullying. Ever. Nothing will ever justify making up stories and scenarios in order to punish somebody because you don't like that they walked away from a multi-million-dollar contract. I've seen many Stray Kids fans say that Chan is under NDA so he can't directly expose Woojin for whatever it is he supposedly did. But that doesn't make sense either, because lawyers are very smart people. They are fully aware that human nature dictates that people will try and get around an NDA by saying things like, I know a person who, or somebody close to me, or hypothetically speaking. All of these types of terms are covered in an NDA. And to assume that he did something criminal or evil in order to be kicked out of the group instead of just accepting that he left because he wanted to, you are accusing JYP Entertainment and Stray Kids of covering up a criminal act. An NDA explicitly states that you cannot use it to cover up a criminal act or to prevent whistleblowing, which in the long run also just damages their reputation. And to make that giant leap from he left a K-pop group and there seems to be some sort of tension to that means he must have sexually assaulted someone is insane work. Nobody knows why he left his old company and his old group. No one but him, but especially not Stray Kids fans. Anything they tell you about his departure from his end is completely fabricated, Stories made up for revenge because they are angry and bitter that he refuses to tell them why he left Stray Kids. They do not like that he exercised his right to privacy. Stays in this case are what you call an unreliable narrator. Almost everything they say about Woojin is based on something they made up. For example, here, there were no charges filed against Woojin to be dropped in the first place. All of the accusations played out on social media. According to all of them, he had no fans, so I'm not sure where the crazy fan base comes from. By the time he had posted those pictures, it's because they were already pictures posted by the accusers. And nowhere in his statement did he say anything about music or streaming, or an album release, or a debut. They consistently misrepresent information or say that they remember things happening that never really happened the way they say they did. It doesn't matter how small the lie, they are willing to tell it in order to feel like they truly belong to the Stray Kids fandom because he is so central to their experience of being a fan of the group. They still stalk him and create narratives so that they can present him as being obsessed with Stray Kids. For example, this TikTok. Woojin was invited as a guest to perform at the Source in Los Angeles to celebrate Korean artists. This particular performance was advertised with his face and name on the poster. Stray Kids fans followed him there hours before he performed. These Stray Kids fans then filmed content dancing to a Stray Kids song, took that footage and spliced it together with footage of Woojin singing his own songs and presented it as if Woojin was singing a Stray Kids song. Once again, Stray Kids fans forcing Woojin and Stray Kids to be seen together as one unit. They make jokes as if they are somehow the injured party or the ones constantly being attacked, to say, "Please, I have a family and thanks for letting us film." In the comments, however, they state that it was Stray Kids fans who let them film, but what would Stray Kids fans be doing at an event specifically advertised for Woojin? They also state right here very plainly that they filmed hours before he performed, which means they knew he was there to perform. You should know they also never actually posted their supposed dance cover that they went there to do. And of course, so they can fit in with their fandom, make jokes about how they were crying because he was there at an event that they specifically went to harass him. To add insult to injury, other Stray Kids fans then pretend to be fans of Woojin so they can co-sign the harassment. I checked all of their following, absolutely none of them follow him on any social media. Pretending as if this was a chance encounter, laughing about how their lies about rape have damaged his career, accusing him of just teleporting to Los Angeles because he heard a Stray Kids song being covered by a Stray Kids fan, and of course other Stray Kids fans excited at the opportunity once again to talk about and disparage Woojin, bring it to Twitter, making posts implying that he is using Stray Kids and using a Stray Kids song for attention when he was there to perform his own music. And of course other Stray Kids fans simply run with the narrative because it fits what they want to believe about him, stating that he will do anything to get himself involved with the group because they're famous now, but it's them who went to an event that he was performing at so they could film a dance cover hours before he would perform. They sat through 3 other performers that day and then waited until the end of all the performances so they could follow him to the fan meeting. This was the meet and greet after the performances. It doesn't matter where Woojin goes, Stray Kids fans will always follow, even ones who created awful videos about him calling him the worst person in the world, then followed him to his HBO Max premiere almost 3 years later so they could get a photo with him. And of course, because actual reputable news sources will not be complicit in spreading their defamation of Woojin, fan-run K-pop update accounts will continue to push this narrative that he is obsessed with trying to get people to remember he was in the group. For example, the quote that they presented in the thumbnail, "I was in Stray Kids." I looked everywhere, could not find this quote. It doesn't exist anywhere. He has never said this. I could post example after example of Stray Kids fans being completely obsessed with and fully consumed by their obsession with Woojin. But you can simply type any of these hashtags into TikTok and you'll be met with thousands of videos ranging from complete lies about Woojin to using the hashtag to boost their videos. Even artists within their own fandom aren't safe because when they created a self-insert persona for Stray Kids fans called Freejin, other Stray Kids fans assumed that somehow it represented Woojin and filmed themselves destroying it. They say that his actions, leaving a K-pop group, make him a bad person and he should just shut up and take it, and eventually Stray Kids fans might decide that they've finally moved on. They insist that Woojin is the worst person on earth, but I can't even find a clip of somebody saying that he's mean. I've looked and looked for clips of him being angry, yelling at people, lashing out, taking revenge, retaliating against his abusers, but I can't find any. They say they do this all on behalf of Stray Kids because he hurt Stray Kids by leaving. But then they also erase Stray Kids' past by stating that they didn't actually debut until Woojin actually left. There is no excuse too small for them to bring up Woojin and to disparage him. But if they only acknowledge Stray Kids after Woojin left, then why are they still so upset with Woojin for leaving? And when they are not looking for any video talking about him so they can link him to Stray Kids, or in his social media comments trying to find ways to mention Stray Kids, they down-talk his talents, saying that he was never a good singer in the first place. Now, music is subjective and it depends on the listener, but I'll let you be the judge.
써왔던 대로 그대로 쓰면 돼 그러면 돼 후회는 없어 달에다頭の中呼びかける声はあれが欲しいこれが欲しいと歌っている어느새 몸이 떠오르듯 헤엄쳐 푸른 빛에 물든 고요한 방에 함께하고 있어 내게 약속해줘 잘 지내줘 사실은 좀 허전해 내 곁에 없던 게
Because of Woojin's professionalism and already long-standing good reputation in the K-pop community, he has been afforded many opportunities to continue his career, with a lot of the people supporting him having known him since he was a child. Every single one of his music coaches still openly support him. Big names in the industry, up-and-coming idols, his co-stars from his HBO Max show, promoters, non-K-pop artists that he's worked with, writers, they all speak so highly of him.
재능이 많고요. 네, 그리고 너무 열심히 살아서 어떻게 저렇게 열심히 살 수 있나. 네, 항상 하고 싶은 것도 많고 네, 되게 부지런하게 사는 것 같더라고요. 제가 같이 했던 노래 내용인데요. 잘하고 있으니까 네, 걱정하지 말고 솔직하게 계속 활동을 했으면 좋겠다. 본인이 잘하는 거를 다 표현하고 그리고 그걸 사람들이 알아줄 것 같아요. 네. 그걸 믿고 열심히 했으면 좋겠습니다.
Let's talk about the last two reasons as to why everyone is convinced that Woojin had to have been kicked out of Stray Kids, and it's absolutely impossible that somebody who was unhappy where he was would want to leave. On September 7, 2015, a boy group by the name of Day6 debuted under JYP. They originally debuted as a 6-member boy group, hence the name. 5 months later, one of the members would leave. JYP Entertainment posted this statement about his departure, which is very similar to the one about Woojin's departure.
Another reason was the similarity of their statement to a prior incident with a JYP artist, in particular the departure of Junghyuk from Day6. The statements were almost the exact same, just with different names. Furthermore, Junghyuk was caught up in a scandal a year after his departure for flirtatious exchanges and possible dating of a fan. It wasn't an unreasonable stretch to compare the two situations and get suspicious because of that.
I decided to look into it myself because just because an opinion is popular, it doesn't mean it's fully correct. When Junghyuk left Day6, it wasn't later revealed that he had been dating a fan. In fact, it's never actually been proven that he was dating a fan. Most K-pop fans just accept this as the reason he was kicked out, but we don't actually know the truth. A full month before he would leave, people were already talking about this idea that he was supposedly dating a fan and that fans were outraged. So where did all of this come from? Well, here's what the rest of the article shows. What I found is that it was never actually proven that he was dating a fan, nor did he ever confirm it, nor did anybody ever confirm it, actually. It was all fan theories and speculation. A quick side note, I've seen Stray Kids fans say that Woojin's fan sites had been closing prior to his departure, which is what actually happened with Junghyuk, but not Woojin. I couldn't find any proof of this, so I'm wondering once again if Stray Kids fans are just taking somebody else's story and applying it to Woojin for absolutely no reason. The Asian Junkie posted a detailed account of what happened step by step. This is a fan account of what happened at the time, and it seems to be the most unbiased. From what I've read from multiple different sources, as well as tweets during the time, It was speculated that he was dating a fan because this particular fan seemed to have insider information about where he was and what he was doing. They acknowledged that the fan had been getting information from assessing a stalker fan. Because this fan seemed to have insider knowledge as to where the group was going to be and what their activities were, people assumed that the fan was dating Junghyuk. Once it had gotten out and Junghyuk had started to receive extreme amounts of backlash for this rumor, the fan then came forward to confirm the rumor, stating that she had been dating him and even posted screenshots of an Instagram conversation they had had in her DMs. I don't have access to the originals, so I don't know if they were ever authenticated, but this was the nail in the coffin. So we will never know if he withdrew for the sake of the group or if he was forced out for breaking the dating ban. Regardless of what happened with Junghyuk, you cannot simply just impose one person's circumstance onto another person because it makes you feel better if they were kicked out instead of voluntarily walking away. And finally, their final excuse, which is Stray Kids re-recorded all of their songs without him, so therefore, he must have done something really bad. See, I could get on board with this line of thinking if Stray Kids had removed all the original versions of the songs from streaming platforms. They write and produce their own songs, so they have the rights to do so. Or replace the original albums with new audio tracks with just 8 instead of putting out a new repackaged album. Woojin has had his privacy invaded far more than probably any other idol. They have dug into every single aspect of his life, and still they can't find him having done anything wrong. The only logical reason is that a self-produced group would re-record their songs after a member leaves because they don't want to split the royalties 9 ways. Anytime these songs are streamed or performed, they would have had to split the proceeds 9 ways. In fact, Stray Kids re-recording their original songs while keeping the original versions on all streaming platforms as well as keeping the original albums exactly as is, and instead releasing a repackaged album with the new recorded materials as well as new songs, tells me that he did not break his contract or breach it, because a breach of contract results in a forfeiture of royalties, so there would have been absolutely no need for them to re-record original tracks. They could have just performed them as is. The last thing I want to talk about is the human cost of what was done to Woojin. Besides Woojin's co-workers, the people who worked at Woojin's old company 10X Entertainment, Woojin's family and friends, Woojin himself, his fans, every single person affected by these lies created by Stray Kids fans, there is actually a sexual assault survivor whose case did not get any traction both times she and her community tried to bring attention to it. From August all the way until the false accusations against Woojin in September, women were trying to get eyes on this case, trying to get people to listen about how this Muslim woman was sexually assaulted and sexually harassed in her own home. When Woojin was falsely accused, everybody shifted focus, and this survivor will never see justice. I wonder if she knows that the reason her story was buried is so people could falsely accuse an idol of sexual assault because they were bitter he left a K-pop group. Through lying about sexual assault, bullying, abuse, and intimidation, they took his support system from this down to this, and all because they were mad that he won't tell them why he left a K-pop group and that he left a K-pop group in the first place. And if you have a problem with when he decided to leave, take it up with the company, because it's up to the company to let him know when he's allowed to leave. Stray Kids fans are notorious for making things up. For example, for years they've been trying to convince everyone that there's some mysterious girl trying to murder one of the members of the group. I don't think that Stray Kids fans will ever move on from Woojin. The point of this video was to give you the tools to understand that Stray Kids fans are addicted to the attention they get. They say it's their duty because they are addicted to the righteous indignation. Nothing unites people like a common enemy. And what do they call what they did to him? They call it consequences and fate. This Korean netizen's observation is 100% correct. Fandom is uniting by creating an external enemy, and they love that it gives them access to victimhood, clout, attention. It helps them build their platforms that they later monetize. They're despicable. As for Woojin, he has never sought retaliation. He has not tried to harm anyone back. He hasn't said anything hateful about anyone else, hasn't directed hate towards anybody at all. He spends all his time spreading kindness and positivity and remains forever grateful to his fans. I've been asked directly how I feel about what Bang Chan said allegedly about Woojin 5 months after Woojin had left. I don't know any of these men, so I can't speak to their motives or their state of mind. None of us can. But what I can tell you is Bang Chan was 15 years old when he became a trainee under JYP Entertainment and moved to South Korea. I saw this clip from a Dive Studios interview with Eric Nam where Bangchan is describing his feelings after every trainee was cut in his program but him. And in usual fashion, anytime Stray Kids talk about any of their hardships, Stray Kids fans assumed he was talking about Eugen, even though this was long before Eugen joined JYP Entertainment. But I thought his response was interesting.
Did you ever want to, like, quit?
No.
Of course. Felix says no.
No.
Bangchan, yes.
Or
What was the hardest part?
Seeing people come and go.
Yeah.
So like you get close to people, but then they end up not making it, or
Right.
then they end up debuting before I do. Well, there was one time, besides me, everyone got cut,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, wow, well, what is happening here? And then I fell into like a really deep depression. No, I wouldn't say it's depression, but I was like, I'm not gonna be friends with anyone. I do not want to experience this pain again. I'm not gonna be friends with. That's why I was always so dark, because for them it's like he's so scary, like 7 years. Yeah.
Now I'm going to try and be very delicate because despite Stray Kids fans being the most judgmental people I have ever encountered and extremely self-righteous, they are also incredibly sensitive to judgment themselves. The reason I found that clip interesting is because Bangchan is talking about his friends losing their dreams or having to start from scratch, being booted from a big company like JYP Entertainment, which means they'll have to start the search for the idol dream all over again. And his internalization of that is that he will never make another friend again. All of these people still would have been available to him to call, text, contact in any way possible, but their physical presence no longer being there put him into a sort of depression and made him never want to make a new friend. As for his friends, they had their dreams crushed. So if his response to his friends having their dreams crushed is to feel sorry for himself because he no longer has friends in his physical presence, it stands to reason that he would also be angry at Eugen for walking away for his mental and physical well-being because of how it affected him, no longer having Eugen's presence there. And that's how you go from being known as one of the kindest idols who was a protector with a really big heart and a really good voice, to having Stray Kids fans make digital versions of you in a children's game so that they can then play you and discuss you in their group chats and then post you to Twitter looking for clout from other Stray Kids fans while saying that they hate you and they don't care about you and they're glad you left. As for Eugen, I am so happy that he has such a strong support system in his family, friends, co-workers, and company. We've already seen too many idols take their lives because careless fans think that it's their right to dictate to these idols how they get to live their lives. These people who abuse, spread hate, and take zero responsibility for their actions are quick to then post videos with sad music talking about how sad it is that idols get bullied to death. Eugen is braver than most. He walked away from something that a lot of people would never walk away from, and he set boundaries with people who are viciously vindictive, nasty, and narcissistic. If you want further insight into why he might have left the group, or you're curious about the re-recordings, you can go to this account, Kim Eugen Thread. They've gone into incredible detail concerning both. And to everybody who is committed to standing up to bullies, the people who absolutely refuse to allow themselves to be abused out of supporting Eugen. Thank you for making content so those of us who were looking for the truth were able to find it. And to everyone who did the original research way back when in 2020, thank you so much for keeping your threads up so that people could find them. And to Cubs, Eugen's fans, you have endured so much at the hands of these awful people. I've been on this earth long enough to know that no matter how deeply people try and bury the truth, it will always find a way.
감사하죠, 사실. 그냥 다른 멀리 있는 국가에서 온 가수를 어떻게 또 알아주시고 노래를 또 들어주시고 응원을 해주시는 게 너무 감사하고, 저는 또 그거에 그 힘을 받아서 더 좋은 음악을 하는 뭔가 그 좋은 관계인 것 같아요, 컵스와 저는. 컵스에게 가장 먼저 하고 싶은 말은 자주 찾아와 주지 못해서 미안하고, 지금 하지만 더 그만큼 좋은 음악과 새로운 모습을 보여줄 수 있는 노력을 많이 하고 있으니까 그런 부분들을 기대해 줬으면 좋겠고, 항상 응원해주고 사랑해주고 좋은 말들 많이 힘을 많이 줘서 너무너무 고맙고 사랑합니다.